Chapter 290. Actually, some of what Ruan Shuang said did make sense. Fang Zhao knew this clearly. Fang Zhao's disadvantage was that he was not an actor and had never acted formally before. In terms of acting, he did not have any works that he could bring out, let alone experience. He simply had none. But he still had to try. Even if he was rejected, at least he had tried. Why was he so fixated on this? Why did he overestimate his abilities and fight for a role in a TV series when it had nothing to do with his profession? Different actors playing the same role would give people different impressions. For people of the new era, Yinzhou's leader, Fang Zhao, had the lowest presence among leaders of the same rank. This was also related to Fang Zhao not being able to last until the end. There were videos and images left behind, but many of them were not released to the public. Unlike those generals who had lived until the founding of the new era, they had been able to leave behind video records. What kind of person was the historical Fang Zhao like? Not to mention people from other continents, even Yinzhou natives did not know. All they knew were those thin words and pitifully few pictures in history books. As for unofficial history, they were just gossip and could not be taken seriously. Fang Zhao had once bought an unofficial history book on the sales charts out of curiosity. He had been so angry that he had laughed. At that time, Zuyu had noticed that his boss did not look too good and had even explained, "Don't take this too seriously. It's just some nonsense." In the past, some authors had written too much about a few great generals, angering the descendants of the great generals and getting banned. As for the book that Fang Zhao had read, it had been made up to a lesser extent and had not been targeted by the descendants of the great generals of the various continents. Founding Era was an adaptation of historical facts and tried to be as realistic as possible. However, the script would surely be altered for artistic effect, so it would not be exactly the same as real history. Even so, Fang Zhao still hoped to let people 500 years in the future see a more realistic Fang Zhao that was closer to the truth of history. He hoped to let everyone see the Fang Zhao version of Fang Zhao in the first officially approved large-scale TV series of the period of destruction. As for acting, Fang Zhao still had some confidence in himself. To be honest, during the period of destruction, in such a chaotic and complicated environment, there were conflicts between people, and leaders of their level were all drama queens. It was necessary to pretend to be weak, to pretend to be happy, angry, sad, or joyful. In fact, many times, in order to achieve one's goal, one had to pretend to know how to hide. And as his status grew higher and higher, it was even more impossible for him to reveal his true emotions at all times. If he was the slightest bit careless, he and his comrades would lose their lives. But how to act in front of the camera, how to act well, he still had to learn. After all, he was not a professional. Fang Zhao had already read up on some information on the performing arts field and had a theoretical understanding. He had also signed up for virtual classes online and taken virtual classes. These were all preparatory work. Fang Zhao also didn't think that he could really beat those established movie stars in an instant. He just had an advantage in terms of understanding of the characters compared to others. He understood his advantages, but his disadvantages were obvious as well. As for what Ruan Shuang had said, his main goal was to make Fang Zhao back off. One less competitor meant one more hope. Fang Zhao understood, but he did not say anything. He was just too astonished to see someone who looked exactly like him. He could not help but be curious. There were many people who looked alike in this world, but this was the first time Fang Zhao had encountered such a situation. At this moment, a group of youths came out of a restaurant not far away. They reeked of alcohol and laughed as they passed by Fang Zhao and Ruan Shuang. Listening to their conversation, they were going to an entertainment venue. It was a very common type of people. Fang Zhao's gaze swept across them, pausing briefly on one of the youths before naturally shifting his gaze away. He said to Ruan Shuang, "Sorry, I have something to attend to." Ruan Shuang stopped talking. Hearing Fang Zhao say this, he smiled and said, "All right, you go ahead." Seeing Fang Zhao's departing figure, Ruan Shuang thought that his words had worked. This young man finally could not hold back his pride and wanted to escape. Indeed, he is still too young. Ruan Shuang shook his head and sighed. What he had said just now was indeed reasonable, but his main goal was to make Fang Zhao give up on this idea. To be so easily persuaded and change his mind, he was indeed still a youngster. And on the other side, Fang Zhao, who did not know Ruan Shuang was lamenting, was following behind that noisy group of youths. His main focus was on one person. He could smell the stench of blood on that young man. Furthermore, although that person seemed to be chatting happily with those around him, they might not really be together. There was something wrong with this person. Given Fang Zhao's accumulated experience from his previous life, he might not be able to completely see through a person, but with his eyesight and intuition, as long as he sensed that something was wrong, then there was definitely a problem. He followed at a moderate distance and did not let anyone detect him. Further ahead was the area on the cruise that was constructed like a street. It was even noisier, and both sides were lined with shops selling all sorts of things. There were also entertainment venues. At this time, it was bustling. It was similar to some of the bustling streets on land. Fang Zhao watched as that young man separated from that group. That group headed for the casino, while that young man headed for a restaurant on the other side of the street. After some thought, Fang Zhao dialed the ship's police number. That's right, to ensure the safety of the people on board, this cruise ship had armed guards. This was also one of the basic equipment for large cruise ships in Tizansia. Very quickly, the call went through. Hello, this is Tizansia Cruise Ship Number 9's police office. There's someone here. You better check it out, Fang Zhao said. In the cruise ship's police office, a young police officer was looking at the screen. As the call went through, the caller's information and location were displayed. The screen was split into two. The left side displayed Fang Zhao's identity information, while the right side displayed the surveillance footage. In the middle of the screen was Fang Zhao. When he saw Fang Zhao's identity information and the particularly eye-catching, reserved duty major column, the police operator's eyebrows twitched. His originally casual expression was replaced with seriousness as he sat up straight. The police officer beside him saw the situation and also quietly came over to look at the screen. They often received calls from children of wealthy families who had nothing better to do and often encountered pranks. Therefore, when they had heard Fang Zhao's calm and unhurried tone, and there had been no abnormalities in the location and the surrounding area, they had mistakenly thought that Fang Zhao was calling the police for fun. But now that he had seen the reserved duty major tag, he could no longer treat it as a joke. Fang Zhao's current status and popularity on the internet did not warrant special treatment from the cruise ship's police officers. The police officers here had seen many celebrities on a regular basis. The police officers knew Fang Zhao and knew that he had been trending on the internet for a while, but they did not know any more detailed information. But now that they had seen the reserved duty major tag, they were more serious. This had more influence on them, and they were more willing to trust the judgment of this reserved duty officer. As for what Fang Zhao had said, they would rather believe it, just in case. We have already determined your position. Please describe the target's location and physical characteristics, the police officer said. As he spoke, Fang Zhao walked into the large, diversified restaurant. The bustling atmosphere and the aroma of food assaulted him. The restaurant was crowded and a little noisy. Scanning the area, Fang Zhao continued, about 20 meters in front of me, young man, slightly thin, 173 centimeters tall, short brown hair, dark gray jacket, just got a glass of wine from the bar counter. There was no need for a more detailed description. Fang Zhao knew that with current surveillance technology, since the people in the police office could easily find him, it was easy to lock onto the target. Sure enough, before Fang Zhao had even finished speaking, the other party had already locked onto the target and even let Fang Zhao confirm it. On the screen in the police office, the target's identity and information were displayed as the target was locked onto. From the looks of it, there was nothing unusual about the other party's identity, but that didn't mean it was true. It was possible to fake it. Keep an eye on him. Pull up the surveillance footage of him. The people in the police office began to move. After the call, Fang Zhao went in search of something to eat. He would leave the rest to the police. Casually making a report to the police would hide his merits and reputation. Arresting the criminal would be left to the police. Although he was a reserve duty major and legally equipped with a gun, he had no right to interfere in this sort of place. In less than 2 minutes, Fang Zhao could no longer see any trace of the suspicious person in the restaurant. He had probably left the restaurant, but the rest could be left to the ship's police. Fang Zhao did not need to worry about it. Withdrawing his gaze, Fang Zhao sat by the window, enjoying his dinner while thinking about what to do next. The place by the window was a little cool, but it was quieter and not as hot. It was suitable for thinking. At the same time, in the police office that had received the call, an investigation was underway. The captain of the police station looked at the surveillance footage and scanned the results of the investigation with a sharp gaze. It doesn't seem like much of a suspect, but in the 5 minutes he disappeared half an hour ago. Where did he go? Continue investigating. Based on my experience, this person might really be suspicious. Chapter 291. Fang Zhao did not know what the police officers on the cruise ship were discussing about him. He was wondering if he would run into Director Roman at the auction later. How many competitors would he have? How could he resolve this? Because of his habits from the period of destruction, Fang Zhao ate rather quickly. However, to adapt to his current lifestyle, he had slowed down considerably. Even so, he was still slightly faster than others. Fang Zhao could feel the gazes of those around him landing on him, but they did not have any ill intentions, so he did not mind. After finishing his meal, Fang Zhao checked the time. There was still some time before the auction started, so he gave Zhuyu a call to ask about the situation on his end. Zhuyu also did not have any news about Director Roman, but he had overheard people mentioning Director Roman in conversations, and they had all connected it to the auction. Therefore, at this auction, he was afraid that he would run into many people with the same goal. After ending the call, Fang Zhao saw that it was about time. Just as he was about to get up and leave, he heard a gentle laugh. Fang Zhao raised his head and saw a pretty blonde girl sitting in the seat opposite him. In her hand was a half-filled cup of sweet fruit tea. The blonde girl stared at Fang Zhao. I know you. That year in Huangzhou, I met you at Fiery Bird's annual gala. My friends and I are all your fans. Although she spoke very excitedly and her facial expression was slightly exaggerated, her gaze was rather calm. When Fang Zhao had been in Yinzhou, he had seen many crazy fans. In comparison, he realized that this blonde girl's excitement, as if she had seen an idol, was just an act. Actually, it was understandable. People who appeared at Tisanxia and could leisurely have fun on such a luxurious cruise ship where the rich congregated could not be of poor background. Even top-notch celebrities were not uncommon, so there was nothing to be excited about facing Fang Zhao. Furthermore, from what she had said, Fang Zhao guessed that she was probably from Huangzhou. Besides what she had just said, people from Huangzhou also had an air of superiority, as well as the way they spoke and their accent. What are you doing here? Could it be? The blonde girl leaned forward and approached Fang Zhao. Her dark blue eyes stared at Fang Zhao with interest. Are you also here for Director Roman? Just as he was about to reply, he heard the blonde girl say, It doesn't matter if you don't want to admit it. I understand. Out of 10 actors I met today, 8 of them are here for Roman. The auction is about to start. I won't hold you up any longer. Give me an autograph as a souvenir. I have 2 friends who are also fans of yours, but it's a pity they went out shopping just now. He said he wanted Fang Zhao to sign, but he didn't bring out any signature card or anything. He didn't even have a pen. Fang Zhao looked at her in silence. Perhaps realizing that there was nothing suitable for her to sign, the blonde girl did not feel awkward. Instead, she took off her jacket and threw it in front of Fang Zhao. Just sign it. The blonde girl was wearing a thin, sleeveless top, revealing a large portion of her stomach. She had a rebellious phase, a vibrant beauty that clashed with purity and sexiness. The blonde girl twirled a cup of fruit tea in one hand and played with a strand of hair in the other. She stared at Fang Zhao with a mischievous smile, wanting to capture any trace of awkwardness or embarrassment on his face or any other indescribable emotion. Fang Zhao glanced at her, raised his hand, and closed the window beside him. He got an attendant to bring over a pen suitable for signing clothes. He quickly signed his name and handed the clothes over. The night breeze is very chilly. The temperature is low. The blonde girl paused, clearly dissatisfied with this sort of reply. She casually took the autographed clothes without looking at them. Instead, she said, Don't you have anything else to say to me? Fang Zhao thought for a bit and said amiably, Have you finished your homework? These words were even colder than the sea breeze blowing in from the window. The blonde girl seemed to be frozen. Her mischievous smile turned into astonishment. She had not expected Feng Zhao to suddenly ask this question. She had been promoted from Secondary 5 to Secondary 6 this year. New Century Secondary 6 and 6 were equivalent to Senior 2 and Senior 3 in the old era. Based on the situation of most secondary schools in the new era, this period of time had a lot of homework. Back in Huangzhou, the summer holidays had not ended yet, but school was about to start. The summer homework load was not small, and children from rich families were also under pressure. Furthermore, she really had not finished her summer homework. Spoil sport. The smile on the blonde girl's face disappeared. She pulled a long face and left in a huff with a tft. Feng Zhao sighed. I really don't know what children these days think about all day. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly received a new call. It was an unknown number, but there was a security verification symbol behind the number. Feng Zhao picked up. Feng Zhao? This is Tizansia Cruise Ship 9, Captain Eric. In the police office, Captain Eric had an ugly expression on his face. After Feng Zhao had called the police, he had also sensed that the person was suspicious through the surveillance footage. While maintaining surveillance, he had also sent people over, but he had not expected that the other party would disappear very quickly from the surveillance footage. The people he had sent over could not find the target either. At the same time, Eric had received news that 2 crew members had been found unconscious and seriously injured in a warehouse. If they had not been carefully investigated, no one would have discovered them. If they had been any later, the 2 might not have been saved. After confirming that a malicious incident had occurred, they continued to investigate the ship for abnormalities and increased their efforts to find the suspect while not causing panic among the tourists. However, that person was as slippery as a loach. Relying on his size advantage, he weaved in and out of the crowd. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared. Although many places on the ship had surveillance cameras installed, tycoons were concerned about privacy. Therefore, only a few public places and some commercial areas had surveillance cameras. Not every place was under their control. What if they lost him? What if they could not find the target? Expand the search area and continue searching? Search. Definitely, they had to send more people to search everywhere. But at the same time, Eric made a prompt decision and contacted Feng Zhao. People were different. Some people had dog noses, such as cemetery guards. No matter how well you disguised yourself, you might not be able to escape their eyes and unexplainable super-intuition. Since Feng Zhao had been the one to call the police and Feng Zhao had the eyesight of a cemetery guard, Eric would let Feng Zhao assist. Looking at Feng Zhao's file, he had been able to seize the opportunity of a 1-year military service to become an officer at such a young age. Presumably, his ability was high. Even if the news was exaggerated, it would not be too outrageous. That was why there was someone here. It would be a waste not to use him. Otherwise, there might be another unsolved case. Why was it another? Because this sort of thing was too common. Furthermore, many tycoons on the cruise had their own bodyguards. They simply did not care about external matters. Whether others were dead or alive, whether they were missing or not, what did it have to do with them? As long as they had fun and enjoyed themselves to the fullest, they did not care about anything else. In any case, it was fine as long as your police team did not spoil my fun. Therefore, even if Eric wanted to vigorously investigate, he would be obstructed. This was also another reason why he wanted to seek Feng Zhao's help. Save trouble. Efficiency. Sufficiently low-key. After Eric briefly explained the situation to Feng Zhao, he expressed his request for Feng Zhao's assistance in finding the target. Feng Zhao looked at the time. The auction was about to start. Without much hesitation, Feng Zhao replied, "All right. What's the other party's route of movement? Where did you lose him?" As he listened to the conversation transmitted through his earpiece, Feng Zhao quickly left the restaurant in the opposite direction of the auction. In another corner of the restaurant, the blonde girl who had just asked for Feng Zhao's autograph met up with a few of her friends and discussed the matter of asking for Feng Zhao's autograph. "My Zhao God is here too? Where? A pair of twin siblings craned their necks to look around. When the blonde girl said that her friends were Feng Zhao's fans, she really was not lying. These 2 siblings were indeed Feng Zhao's fans, and they were the more infatuated type. When they heard that Feng Zhao was also on this cruise, they immediately got excited. He left. I just saw him leave in that direction in a hurry. The blonde girl pointed in the direction that Feng Zhao had left. After saying that, the blonde girl felt that something was amiss. That isn't the direction of the auction. Don't tell me he isn't going to look for Director Roman? Did I guess wrong? Oh right, I heard that the chief director of Founding Era is on this cruise and will appear at the auction, another person said. Speaking of Feng Zhao, I remember that there was once a poll online for who should act as Feng Zhao. I also voted for Feng Zhao, but that was just for fun. Honestly speaking, there is no way he will be chosen. The two siblings, who had originally been disappointed when they heard that Feng Zhao had left, became unhappy when they heard their companion's words. Why can't my Zhao god be chosen? Yes, he definitely can. The two siblings were resolute in defending their idol. They had started out as fans of the game, but after a series of events, they had become brainless fans of Feng Zhao. Their friends also knew about this. When the topic of their idol came up, these two siblings' IQ, EQ, IQ, whatever it was, all went offline. To put it bluntly, they had been normal people just a moment ago, but they had suddenly become brainless. Youngsters were easily impulsive, especially teenagers. When their emotions were stirred up, their logic was moving. The few people who had just said that Feng Zhao would not be chosen raised their hands helplessly. All right, let's not talk reason with brainless fans. After some time, you will know what the outcome will be. Facts speak louder than words. Actually, these two siblings were not really brainless. Of course, they understood the stringent requirements for such a super project. If it was a game, it would be fine, but if it was a film or TV series, Feng Zhao really had no chance. But in front of their little friends, they were just unwilling to admit it. Don't be fooled by how confident they had been when they had argued just now. After they calmed down and regained their rationality, they were still frowning and sighing silently. Sigh, why isn't the Founding Era project delayed for another 20 or 30 years? At that time, perhaps Feng Zhao's popularity and status would rise by quite a few notches, and he would have some fighting power. Right now, it is indeed too early. But whether or not Founding Era would be rebooted, what the timing would be, and how the actors would be chosen were really not things that people like them could interfere with. Chapter 292. Regardless of what the siblings were thinking, they could not find Feng Zhao for the time being. They even specially went to the auction house to take a look, but they still did not see a trace of Feng Zhao. Either he is in some private room, or he really is not here. I saw him walking in the opposite direction. Maybe he really did not want to come over here. Or maybe there are too many people here, and we could not find him. Forget it. Stop looking. In any case, he is on this cruise ship. Who knows, you might see him again tomorrow. The siblings' friends advised them to give up looking, but after the two of them searched to no avail, they could only give up. Ruanshuang, who had also come for the director, took a look around the auction house. He did not see Roman or Feng Zhao. He thought to himself, Feng Zhao really did not come? Indeed, it is because of what I said earlier. On the other side, Feng Zhao followed the clues Eric had provided and headed over. This is where he disappeared? Feng Zhao stood on the cruise ship's central plaza. This was the core open-air leisure area of the cruise ship. There were many people at all times. Besides a few commercial shops, there were also many self-service vending machines. Among the tourists coming and going, Feng Zhao also saw a few plainclothes people. These were probably the people Eric had sent over. My team has split up and searched there for nearly 10 minutes, but they have not seen him. The surveillance equipment has not been able to find him, and the facial scans from the surveillance cameras have not been able to find him. I suspect that he is wearing a mask and has changed his clothes, Eric said over the call. If the target had disguised himself before they could react, and if the target had other accomplices to help him escape, then it would be very difficult to find him. Furthermore, so much time had passed. Even a minute was enough for a person to hide. Furthermore, it had already been 10 minutes since they had lost sight of the target. There were too many people in this area. Even in the police bay, looking at the people on the surveillance screens made Eric feel tired. He had a feeling that he did not know where to start. Although this was not the first time such a situation had occurred on this cruise ship, Eric still felt helpless every time he encountered it. There were too many people on the cruise ship with special statuses. Their search operations were limited, and their hands and feet were tied. His subordinates, including himself, also had limited abilities. Taking another look at Feng Zhao, who was standing there, Eric also realized that he was making things difficult for Feng Zhao. So he told Feng Zhao, "Forget it. If you have other matters to attend to, go ahead. I will send more people here to investigate." "Okay, I'll take a look around first." Since he was already here, Feng Zhao did not intend to leave immediately. The auction had already started, and he would not be able to make it. The entrance was closed, and he could not enter. He might as well search around. Any clues would be good. Somewhere on the 12th floor, a person came out of the disco. It was the suspect that the police were looking for. He stood leisurely in front of the railing and answered a phone call. "They will withdraw in half an hour," the other side said. "Who are the reinforcements you speak of?" he asked. "I don't know. The eavesdropping information is not complete. I only know that it was the person who called the police." "He's the one who caused the police to target me? He's here?" "Which one?" He knew that he had been targeted by the police because someone had called the police. This had directly disrupted his escape plan and caused him to be exposed in advance. He actually called the police. "Damn it. I feel that the most important thing for you now is to wait," the voice in the earpiece advised. "I know. After this job, I will leave this place and hide for a few years." But he really wanted to know who had called the police. What had the other party seen? Where had he exposed himself previously? His gaze swept across the central square, and he saw a few plainclothes policemen. Plainclothes policemen? Even if this bunch of people changed their clothes, they would not be able to hide their stench. The corners of his mouth curled up in a mocking smile. He liked to stand on high ground and watch this bunch of people search for him, thinking that they were in hiding. However, his smile did not last long before his face froze. He saw a person. When their gazes met, a rare trace of fear surfaced in his heart the moment the other party looked over. Then, he saw the other party stare in his direction and say a few words. Following that, the few plainclothes policemen all looked in his direction. After that, the group of police officers were like starving cats that had smelled blood, and they all surrounded him. "You've been exposed." The voice in the earpiece sounded doubtful and incredulous. "I wore a mask, but you've still been exposed. What did you do?" The voice in the earpiece sounded anxious. "Nothing. I just fucking glanced at him unintentionally." On the other side, Feng Zhao had originally been searching floor by floor. He had not expected to see the person directly. The other party had even boldly stood at the railing and looked down. After informing the police officers, Feng Zhao also chased in that direction. "Police station." A police officer staring at the monitor said in amazement, "It's really this person? But his hair color and appearance have changed." "Should be right. Otherwise, our people would have found him by now. Otherwise, why would he be running?" Eric was now incomparably glad that he had found Feng Zhao. Otherwise, who would have known that this unbridled stranger standing there was actually the suspect they had been searching so hard for? That impressive? I think Feng Zhao could totally go to the Cemetery of Martyrs on Memorial Day to work part-time. Another police officer lamented. Eric was not thinking that much now. His previous dismay had been swept away. He held the communication device in his hand and gave instructions to his team members spread out on each floor. His eyes fixed on the screen, he said excitedly, "Catch him. Surveillance. Watch closely. Don't let him get away this time." Seeing that Feng Zhao was also heading over, Eric was about to tell Feng Zhao not to participate in the chase, but on second thought, he restrained himself. It was better to wait until they really caught the suspect. What if they lost him again? Central Square. Tonight, Feng Zhao was dressed in a more formal evening gown. This kind of attire was not conspicuous here. It was for tonight's auction. Feng Zhao had wanted to dress willfully, but during his time at Silver Wing, he knew that such formal attire gave a better impression. It also had the solemnity and seriousness of an interview. Only when one's status was high would one have the capital to be willful. Xuejing and Ming Tsang had both told Fang Zhao that it was better to abide by the rules before he reached that level, so Fang Zhao had specially dressed formally. But now that the situation was special, he did not care whether it was formal or not. Listening to the movements of the suspect transmitted over his earpiece, Fang Zhao took off his coat and hung it on a public clothes hook beside the flower bed. He also swiped a leash from the vending machine. It was the kind of leash that tourists at the pool used to tie to children's backpacks or swimming rings to prevent them from getting lost. It could be retracted and adjusted in length and elasticity. There were even cartoon patterns on the leash, pink and blue. It was very childish. Fang Zhao tugged on it. It was still considered sturdy. The police officers watching Fang Zhao's movements through the surveillance cameras were a little confused by Fang Zhao's series of actions. Captain Eric only glanced over. He simply had no time to express his opinion. He had received information from the pursuers. The target has gone to the top floor. He has gone over to the bow of the ship. Hearing this, Eric, who had been closely following the chase, had a guess in his heart. This person seemed to be very familiar with every part of the ship. Had he been here for a long time? There were also people guiding him in secret. Perhaps some of the previous cases on the ship had been committed by them. Eric became even more excited when he thought of this. Regardless of whether he could render meritorious service or not, if he could solve the previous few cases, the sullen feeling in his heart would dissipate. Continue the chase. If I still lose you this time, don't come and see me. Eric told Fang Zhao the information he had received. Right now, the elevators here are very crowded. There is a door 20 meters to the left of your current position. Open it and follow the passageway straight for about 70 meters. Make a right turn, and you will see a special elevator. I will speak to the main control room and give you special privileges. Very soon, you will be able to go up to the top floor. Where are you running to? On the other side, after Fang Zhao left the core area of the central plaza, he ran faster and faster. The crowd became sparse, and Fang Zhao kept increasing his speed. His running route did not follow Eric's instructions at all. At one end of the central plaza, there was a rock climbing wall made to imitate a natural rock wall to satisfy the needs of a group of tourists who loved extreme sports. At this moment, there was a small group activity at the rock climbing wall. The instructor had just demonstrated to the team members how to climb quickly and safely. He also took the opportunity to compete with a few competitive people and ruthlessly suppress their drive. All right, let's take a break before we continue. Next up, who wants to compete with me? Just as the instructor finished speaking, he noticed a figure suddenly flash past him. Then, following the rock wall, with a whoosh, the figure climbed up. The other party climbed at lightning speed as if he were walking on flat ground. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the top of the rock wall. To be precise, the other party directly climbed this rock wall to the top deck of the cruise ship. In the group, those who raised their heads earlier could still see the back of the climbing figure. Those who raised their heads later could only see the rock wall. After a while, the instructor asked in a daze, "Just now, someone climbed up?" "Seems like it," the team member replied. "Are you sure it was a person?" "Seems like it. I guess. Who was that just now? I didn't even give the order to start." "I didn't see clearly." There was still someone who continued to stare at the rock wall with his head raised. "Looks like he was barehanded. His attire isn't professional either." "Very good. Now, who can tell me how a person barehanded, without the help of any tools, and dressed like a layman managed to climb up at such speed?" the instructor asked. Silence. The extreme sports team gathered to face the wall and pondered. Why was that so? The instructor waited for a while, but there was no reply. He clapped his hands and called everyone back to their senses. "All right, let's change the question. Who knows such an expert?" Everyone shook their heads and continued to face the wall and ponder. The instructor asked around and realized that he did not know who the expert who had jumped up with a whoosh just now was. What the hell? In the police station, the people who had seen the scene through the surveillance cameras were already dumbfounded. The cruise's main control room was talking to Eric. "Captain Eric, the application for the elevator has been approved. When will the person you mentioned arrive?" Chapter 293. Seeing the speed at which Fang Zhao had moved, then looking at the other officers on the surveillance screens, Eric thought to himself, I don't think they are that slow usually. Indeed, there is too little training. At this moment, the officer on the top floor reported to Eric, the personnel at the bow are ready, but the target has suddenly changed direction and is heading for the side of the ship. Why is he heading for the side of the ship? Eric was puzzled. I remember that there is an SVIP area on the 17th floor with a balcony. There are no surveillance cameras there either, Fang Zhao replied. Hearing this, Eric understood what Fang Zhao was trying to say. The area in front of the 17th floor is indeed the royal suite in the SVIP area. It is custom-made and has a private balcony. Does that fellow want to jump down to the 17th floor from the top floor? The entire SVIP area on the 17th floor did not have any surveillance cameras, and there were no police officers there. Most importantly, the people who lived there had rather special statuses and were more concerned about privacy. Normally, they would not even let the police in for a search. Was the suspect trying to evade the cruise ship's surveillance cameras again and change his disguise? Fang Zhao's conjecture was very reasonable, and Eric agreed. We can't let him go down. Who is closest to that side? Eric asked. The T-team members and Fang Zhao, a team member replied. At this moment, the suspect, who had already reached the side of the ship, had indeed jumped down decisively without the slightest bit of hesitation. At such a height, in such a place, not just anyone had the guts to do it. It was very obvious that he had long been prepared and had brought tools with him. It was just that the T-team members who had given chase had not been that well prepared. They did not have tools to flip over the building. Although the top floor was only 3 floors away from the 17th floor, the slightest carelessness and a fall would be dangerous. Whether it was falling into the sea or another deck, there was a possibility of death, at least according to the statistics of past accidents. The T-team members were a step slower, waiting for the others to grab their equipment before jumping down and flipping over the building. Fang Zhao arrived at the same time as the T-team members, but he did not pause for a moment. The few people in the police duty room watching the situation unfold from the surveillance cameras were shocked once again. He is going to jump into the sea. Fang Zhao, don't be rash. He dared to jump because he has tools in his hands, but don't think that you can ensure your safety with those toys in your hands. It's not fun to fall into the sea at this time, Eric said anxiously when he saw Fang Zhao's posture. However, just as Eric finished his long speech, Fang Zhao had already jumped down. Save them, Eric roared. In a custom-made suite on the 17th floor, the phone in the room kept ringing, as if it would never stop until it reached its goal. Roman frowned, unwilling to interrupt his train of thought to answer the call. Then, his personal communicator rang. If it was a close family member or a close friend, the notification tone would definitely be different. Therefore, the caller ID was an unknown number. Since they didn't know each other, there was no need to bother with them. Now should be the time for the auction to start. Perhaps someone had found out his contact information through some channels and kept calling him to harass him. If it was any other time, Roman might have picked up the call, but right now, he was bursting with inspiration, and his thoughts were in an excellent state. It was like a painter being interrupted in the middle of a painting, or a composer being disturbed in the middle of a composition. It was simply a feud. Annoying. Roman scratched his head in frustration. His already messy white hair became even worse. He took large strides over and switched off the phone in the room. His own communicator was also set to silent before he quickly returned to the screen and continued his train of thought. Because he had been staring at the screen for a long time, Roman's eyes were bloodshot, but his expression was still incomparably focused as he studied every minute expression of the characters on the screen. He had watched a few audition videos of actors and compared them with some historical video material, but he still felt that something was missing. After thinking it over, he dug out Fang Zhao's videos. He had been studying Fang Zhao's videos all along, including those of his military service, as well as those of his daily entertainment media reports. Every time he studied, he would have a new harvest. This gaze is very good. 30% artistic, 70% hot-blooded. More like it. This is also very good. Calm enough, incisive enough, steady enough. A place where the flames of war cross swords is indeed better for tempering people. Director Roman's eyes were even more bloodshot. He seemed like a lunatic who had been cursed as he mumbled to himself. His spirit, which should have been exhausted, became increasingly excited. Even the sea breeze blowing in from the window could not calm him down. As he watched each video and analyzed it in detail, Roman discovered that Fang Zhao was practically the same as the Fang Zhao in those historical video material, not in terms of appearance, but rather the feeling his gaze gave him. But strictly speaking, they were actually not exactly the same. In comparison, the Fang Zhao in historical video material had a stronger killing intent, and his imposing manner was even more intimidating. That kind of aura of blood and fire that seemed to be able to break through the screen was not something an actor could easily emit. The preserved video material was limited. Roman did not know what the true nature of the Fang Zhao in real history was like. He could only use these materials to gradually sketch out the image of this historical character in his mind. After flipping through countless materials, especially the precious video material preserved from the period of destruction, Roman already had a vague image of Fang Zhao in his mind. But these videos and photos before him once again made the character's settings in Roman's mind even clearer. When audiences mentioned a certain character, they would directly associate it with the actor that played the character, but actors were the direct transmitters of the director's thoughts. In the future, when Founding Era started filming, the actors and actresses would act in the way that Nova Roman wanted them to act. Perhaps it would be different from the real person in history, but at least this character would be a version that Nova Roman had created based on historical materials. And Fang Zhao was indeed a good template, an important reference. Roman sighed regretfully. What a pity. If Fang Zhao had been an actor with many years of acting experience, Roman would have directly contacted someone for an audition. Unfortunately, it was an outsider. But his eyes are still very good, and his temperament is not bad. There is some reference value. When the time comes, I'll just buy the rights to the video. As he muttered to himself, Roman took a small step forward and got closer to the screen. He looked at the photo of Fang Zhao on the left screen and then at the screenshot of the Fang Zhao on the right screen. The imposing manner is still a little lacking. There was no need to insist on the killing intent. The martyr Fang Zhao was someone who had been forged in the flames of war for decades and centuries, and the Fang Zhao on the screen was someone who had grown up in the new era and lived in a peaceful era. Even the most top-notch actors might not be able to portray something like this, so there was no need to set high standards for Fang Zhao. There were gains and losses. It is rare to find such a good template. I have to do more research. When the time comes, I can let the actors watch more of these videos. Roman enlarged the photo of Fang Zhao. It seems like it is still lacking something. Right, too young. I should add some wrinkles and add some scars. The face needs to be slightly adjusted to increase the imposing manner. Roman raised his hand toward the screen and prepared to use software to directly age the person in the photo and add some scars to make it more similar to the image he had constructed in his mind. Suddenly, he heard movement on the balcony. He turned his head and saw a figure flipping over the balcony and rushing toward the room. At this point in time, in this kind of place, a stranger intruding in this way was just short of pasting a hostile intruder sign on his body. Alarm bells were already going off in Roman's brain. However, before he could react, another figure descended from above and flipped over the balcony. At the same time, the shadow of a whip flashed over like a nimble snake. The suspect who had successfully flipped over the balcony of a suite on the 17th floor was about to get the person in the room to quiet down to prevent him from calling for help or calling the police. But before he could make a move, both his legs were bound. The next moment, he fell to the floor with a thud and was dragged out, his entire body tied up like a dumpling. This unforeseen event happened in the blink of an eye. The suspect was stunned. He looked at the rope that was tying him up. The cartoon patterns on the rope seemed to be emitting a mocking light. After struggling for a bit, the suspect who was tied up like a dumpling stopped moving. Nonsense. The back of his head was facing the muzzle of a gun. Would he dare move? Fang Zhao had taken care of this suspect and was about to explain to the tourists in the room to prevent any misunderstandings. When he looked up and saw the situation in the room clearly, He was stunned for 2 seconds before saying, "The police are handling a case. Please don't panic." As he spoke, Fang Zhao took out the electronic proof Eric had given him to prove that he was assisting the police in handling a case. The suspect, who was tied up like a dumpling, didn't dare make any big movements. He only carefully twisted his neck and rotated his eyeballs, analyzing the situation around him and looking for an opportunity to escape. Looking at the person pointing a gun at the back of his head, the suspect couldn't help but curse in his heart. Where did the police find such a god? He's even better at flipping buildings than me. This intuition and skill is enough to guard the 12 cemeteries of martyrs. If you had the time, you could have gone to deal with terrorists or gone to another planet to earn military merits. Why would you be a little cop on a cruise ship? Why the fuck are you staring at me? The suspect carefully twisted his neck again and looked ahead. When he saw the situation in the room, he was also stunned. In the room, the walls were covered with screens. On each screen was a video or photo of a different background. There was a jungle, a city, a street, a stage. Some of the people inside were wearing military uniforms, others were attending events, some were full-body shots, some were static close-ups. They were all the same person, and they looked exactly the same as the person behind him. However, the more he looked at the person, the more familiar he felt. Soon after, the suspect seemed to remember something. His eyes widened, and he wished he could snap his neck. Looking around the room, standing in front of the screen was a wretched old man with an unkempt beard. His hand was still on the photo. He seemed to be that world-renowned director that had been the subject of much discussion online. Then, thinking about the messy private lives of this bunch of celebrities and tycoons, the suspect's brain took 100 turns in an instant, and he understood. Unwritten rules. The suspect, who felt that he had discovered the truth, couldn't help but curse his bad luck. It seemed like he had discovered another shady transaction. Would he be silenced? As for Nova Roman, who was standing in the room, he was also stunned by this series of unforeseen events. He had never imagined that someone would jump over the balcony of the SVIP area. When he saw the gaze of the bundled-up intruder staring at him, Roman was even more displeased. Chapter 294. Roman's gaze shifted to another person. When he had heard the words, "police handling a case," he had been so focused on the electronic evidence that he had not noticed what the person who had flipped over looked like. Now that he had a clear look, he suddenly did not know what to say. The room was filled with videos and photos of Fang Zhao. Before this, he had been studying them until his eyes were bloodshot. Now that he had suddenly seen the real person, his first reaction was that he was seeing things. "You are." Before he could finish his sentence, Roman saw a few people wearing police uniforms flipping over one after another from the balcony. Roman. Did ship police handle cases like this nowadays? His eyebrows twitching, Roman calmly switched off all the screens in the room. The people who had flipped over were the police officers on the top deck who had brought equipment for flipping over and had come down from above. "Fang Zhao, are you all right? Caught? Is it this kid?" The police team glanced at the tied-up suspect. After confirming that it was him, they cuffed him. Another police officer, who was probably the team leader, walked over to Roman and explained the situation. "Mr. Nova Roman? Sorry to disturb you. The police office called your room number, but no one picked up. We also could not reach you through the communications device. Previously, they had contacted the guests in the SVIP area and warned those with bodyguards to hurry up and find them. Only Roman's phone had not been able to reach him. Even if he had wanted to inform them in advance, it would have been impossible. Coincidentally, the suspect had flipped over the balcony of his room, and Roman usually did not bring bodyguards with him when he worked. If not for Fang Zhao's quick reflexes and timely arrival, this old man Roman would have either been injured or turned into a hostage. If he had been even more unlucky, he might have already been wiped out. After listening to the police's brief explanation, Roman naturally understood that Fang Zhao had saved his life. However, now Roman had another idea. If it had been anyone else, it would have been fine, but it just had to be Fang Zhao. Roman thought back to what had just happened. His train of thought was still ongoing. Fang Zhao's persona had changed because of this series of unforeseen events. On the other side, Fang Zhao received a call from Eric. Eric questioned Fang Zhao about what had happened and asked Fang Zhao to escort the suspect to the interrogation room along with the police team. Eric had even sent a small flying transport over to pick up the suspect. Time was tight, and Fang Zhao did not have the time to look for Director Roman for a chat. However, it was better to send the suspect over first. He would look for the director after everything was done. After Fang Zhao and the rest of the police force left, Roman turned on the screen once again. Watching the image on the screen, his mind replayed the series of events that had just occurred, and he sank into deep thought. The suspect was escorted to the interrogation room of the cruise ship's police station. Fang Zhao was called to another room to give his statement. Outside the interrogation room, Eric reprimanded the police officers. Even Fang Zhao knows to prepare tools in advance. What about you guys? Did you bring the necessary equipment with you? No efficiency, no ability to move. You can't even compare to an amateur. A police officer timidly said, "Captain, that Fang Zhao is really a professional. He came from Baiji Military District and directly confronted terrorists. He really can't be considered an amateur. Didn't the military newspaper say, you still dare to talk back?" Eric's eyebrows shot up. His gaze forced the junior police officer to swallow his unfinished words. Eric also recalled that Fang Zhao came from Baiji Military District, but he would not take back his words. It was a matter of face. He was the boss here. However, they really couldn't compare to Fang Zhao. Not to mention his mystical intuition. Just directly jumping from the top deck was something that even people who worked on cruise ships all year round and trained regularly could barely do. They definitely wouldn't be as nimble as Fang Zhao. Luckily, not every suspect is like Fang Zhao. Given Fang Zhao's skills, if he committed a crime, we would all lose our jobs, a police officer lamented. Eric's mood worsened at the mention of this. Don't talk about Fang Zhao's level. Just look at the one locked up inside. If we had not coincidentally met Fang Zhao, do you think you would have been able to catch him? However, now is not the time to lecture his subordinates. Eric had to go over and interrogate the suspect first. When Fang Zhao arrived, Eric had already gone in to interrogate the suspect. However, that had nothing to do with Fang Zhao. After giving his statement, he was told that he could leave. Just as he was about to leave, Fang Zhao heard the whispers of two police officers. If it had been anyone else, they would not have been able to hear what they were talking about. However, Fang Zhao's hearing was much better than the average person's, so he heard some of the contents of the discussion. When Fang Zhao was giving his statement, he found out from one of the police officers that the person he had just arrested had come to steal something. What he had stolen was an important item from a safe in the storeroom. At first, Fang Zhao had thought that the person had stolen some sort of gemstone, because this auction was mainly about gemstones. He had not expected that the other party had stolen an antique. Yes, according to the classification rules of the new era, a portable hard drive from the old era was indeed an antique. During the period of destruction, many enterprises had not prepared for disaster recovery and backup. When disaster struck, there had been serious data loss, and 99% of people's own portable storage devices had been destroyed. Too little had been preserved. Some lucky portable storage devices had been preserved using special methods during the period of destruction to extend their lifespan. Storage devices that had not had the chance to preserve them would have broken down over time, even if they had not been destroyed by external forces. The data stored inside could not be recovered. The data preserved by scientific research teams established during the period of destruction was of a more important kind. It was related to the survival and development of mankind. As for civilian entertainment, very little had been preserved. But when the world had once again regained its peace and life had stabilized, people had once again started to pursue things from the old era. In the first 100 years of the new era, there had been people who had made a fortune by discovering old era videos. However, after 500 years, many of the videos had been backed up in the database. Some people had discovered an old-era portable storage device with great difficulty. They had spent a lot of money to hire a relic restorer and an appraiser. However, when they had invested the money, they had discovered that the videos stored inside had already been backed up in the database. The first person who had discovered the videos had already registered them. The items in their hands could not be sold for a high price. It was like drawing water with a wicker basket. People from the new era all had an old era complex. And these storage devices that had survived for various reasons were also valued by people. Of course, what was more important was the old era videos stored inside that had not yet been recorded in the database. Antiques could be counterfeited, and so could videos. Thus, professional appraisers were needed to analyze the authenticity and make an evaluation to determine how much it was worth. The two police officers were discussing finding reliable relic restorers and appraisers to figure out exactly what was inside the portable hard drive. Why would anyone pay a high price for a thief to steal it, and whose possession did the hard drive belong to? However, Fang Zhao's focus was different. Relic restorers these days were really amazing. They could even repair portable hard drives. However, at the mention of this, Fang Zhao had other thoughts. Becoming a relic restorer was too difficult, but he planned to take the exam to become a relic appraiser. Only with a certificate could he enter certain places. He was still very interested in those relic videos. While Fang Zhao was deep in thought, a police officer came over. "Hey, Fang Zhao, your rock climbing and building jumping skills are really amazing. Practice a lot. You'll get used to it," Fang Zhao replied. During the end of days, he had lived without elevators for many years. Not to mention rock climbing and building jumping, he had done even more dangerous things. It had already become a kind of habit. Even though he had been reborn and changed his body, he had retained that memory. Every muscle, every cell had been transmitted with clear memories. However, the police officer clearly did not know the true meaning of Fang Zhao's words. He just assumed that Fang Zhao had trained a lot and had trained frequently in Baiji Military District. That was why he had such skills. After leaving the police district, Fang Zhao received a message. It was from an unknown number. At the end of the message was the name, Nova Roman. Fang Zhao stared blankly for a moment before smiling. Before coming, Fang Zhao had imagined many scenarios in which he would meet this lead director, but he had never expected that the first thing he would say would be, "The police are handling a case. Please do not panic." He had thought that missing the auction would mean missing out on this opportunity. He had never expected to actually meet the lead director here. What a coincidence. His luck was just too good. Had his luck really changed after being reborn? But what was going on in the room just now? Fang Zhao had also seen the images on the screen clearly. Had this director really been studying him? Anyone who had encountered such a situation would have felt that it was strange and doubtful. However, for Fang Zhao, this was not a bad thing. After leaving the police district, Fang Zhao once again went to the SVIP suite area on the 17th deck. This time, there was no need to climb. In the room, Roman had already changed his clothes and freshened up. He did not look as sloppy and wretched anymore. Roman had asked Fang Zhao over for 3 reasons. Firstly, to explain why there had been so many videos and pictures of Fang Zhao in the room. Secondly, to thank Fang Zhao for saving him in time. Thirdly, to discuss the matter of videos with Fang Zhao. Roman would compile some of Fang Zhao's past videos into his own instructional materials. When the time came to guide actors, it would also be helpful in setting up the character of Fang Zhao. Thinking back to the previous situation, Roman did not feel embarrassed when facing Fang Zhao again. After all, his age, experience, status, and thick skin were all there. He could maintain sufficient composure. "Have a seat. Don't stand on ceremony." Under normal circumstances, Roman was still very amiable. Tizancia's special grade tea leaves. There are very few genuine goods on the market. I just snatched this from an old friend. Roman chuckled and personally poured a cup of tea for Fang Zhao. "I know all about this matter. Thank you for your timely intervention. Otherwise, this old life of mine would really be hanging in the balance. I'm getting old and can't take much suffering. I've heard your concert online. It was pretty good. When is your next concert?" "If I have the time, I will definitely go and listen to it live. I haven't started preparing for the next one yet," Fang Zhao replied. "Oh, that's right. Take a break first and give yourself a break before preparing for the next one. Tizancia is a great place for a vacation." "No." Fang Zhao looked at Roman with a serious expression. I heard that director Roman was at Tizancia, so I made a special trip here. Roman paused in the act of sipping his tea and suddenly raised his head. His gaze sharpened in an instant. Although he still had a smile on his face, it was no longer as amiable as before. Chapter 295. After Fang Zhao said this, the room fell silent. It was so quiet that one could hear the sound of breathing. The specialty tea leaves of Tizancia had a refreshing aroma that made people feel refreshed on hot days. But now, in this quiet and stagnant room, it seemed chilly. Everyone in the room was able to keep their cool. Roman's deep gaze carefully sized up the young man sitting across the tea table. It wasn't that he hadn't thought about Fang Zhao's purpose for appearing here, and he had suspected that Fang Zhao was here for Founding Era, but he had quickly tossed that thought aside because, in his opinion, the possibility was extremely low. In theory, it was completely impossible. Furthermore, Fang Zhao had indeed been assisting the police with a case and had appeared at the other end of the cruise ship when the auction had started, so Roman had quickly dismissed his suspicions. But now, Roman suddenly broke the silence in the room. You really have the guts to dream. The facts before him showed that not only did this young man have the guts to dream, he had even said it in front of him. If he hadn't confirmed that the unforeseen event caused by the suspect had really been a sudden incident, he would have suspected that the whole thing had been artificially arranged. However, Roman really didn't like actors beating around the bush in front of him. He had been a director for so many years, and he had seen more than 10 best actors and actresses from various continents. When filming, he was the only one who directed actors. It was very difficult for actors to play mind games in front of him. Furthermore, Roman's current status was very high, so he didn't like this bunch of small-time actors beating around the bush in front of him. Who would have thought that this person in front of him wouldn't even beat around the bush and would get straight to the point? Is he saying this because he has figured out my temperament? Roman narrowed his eyes and once again examined the person in front of him. I have studied a lot of historical footage and understand the martyr Fang Zhao in history. I can't deny that in many aspects, you are indeed very similar to the Fang Zhao in the series. You are also very similar to the character I designed and have given me a lot of inspiration. I can make you a stunt double. Given your skills, I can even take out a contract for you to sign right now. But at this moment, Roman's aura suddenly changed. It was like a rising storm that enveloped the tea table area. It's basically impossible for you to get this role. You aren't even an actor. Before this, you have no acting experience. What are you going to use to compete? Fang Zhao's gaze did not back down because of Roman's imposing manner. Rather, he said, in this role, I can act it better than anyone else. Work. Awards. This is the most direct and powerful proof, and not empty words. That's why what I'm looking for now is a chance to prove myself, Fang Zhao said. Why Roman? Because Roman dared to use rookies. He took an unconventional approach. Fang Zhao had analyzed many people, and if he wanted to find a breakthrough, Roman was the best place to start. Only here could he fight for a chance. The room fell silent again. It was so quiet that the sound of Roman's fingers rubbing against the teacup could be heard. Fang Zhao didn't say anything. He just waited quietly. He thought that in front of this world-renowned director, there was no need for him to say anything and that the other party would have his own judgment. After a while, Roman said, "You've already figured out my temper." Roman liked to use newcomers in his works because he liked to dig out the gold that people overlooked and buried. He liked to blow away the dust on the pearls covered in dust and see the shining moment. He liked to create gods. When his career ended in the future, when he looked back, he would see the resplendent starry sky that he had created. If one were to ask the entire project team, among those who had the right to make decisions and vote, who would be the most likely to use a newcomer? Only he, Nova Roman. Every newcomer he had pushed out had been very popular, and those who had brains and could quickly adapt to this circle were already standing at the top of the entertainment pyramid. However, when it came to the Founding Arab project, Roman had initially intended to treat it conservatively. But now, after meeting Fang Zhao for real, he was shaken. Founding Era was a super project. To Roman, its significance was naturally different. However, the adventurous genes and the raging ambition in his body made Roman change his original way of thinking. Although Feng Zhao wasn't considered a newcomer and wasn't even an actor, what harm was there in giving him a chance? Who asked this little fellow to suit his taste? Furthermore, he was practically the same as the character he had constructed in his mind. Forget it. I'll just treat it as returning a favor. Roman found an excellent excuse in his heart. Even if Feng Zhao failed, in the future, when people asked, he could explain. On account of the inspiration you provided and for saving me this time, I will give you a chance. However, there are some things I have to make clear to you. Founding Era is a super project. For an important role like the martyr Feng Zhao, even as the head director, I have no authority to make the final call. It isn't something that can be decided by just one person. Roman's tone became more serious. In 10 days, I will give you a chance to audition. But this is only the first round. If you pass this hurdle, I will take out your audition video and put it together with the audition videos of other actors and conduct a second round of screening. After the screening, the other decision-makers of the project will be shown and a final vote will be carried out. You have to be prepared. He had to be mentally prepared to be eliminated, and he also had to be prepared to face the sinister eyes of the project's decision-makers with high positions and power, as well as the renowned masters of the film industry. After saying this, Roman's sharp gaze once again became tranquil, like the clouds and wind after a torrential downpour. He did not look at Feng Zhao again. Instead, he turned toward the floor-to-ceiling window and waved his hand, indicating that Feng Zhao could leave. If Feng Zhao had not made this request, perhaps he would have discussed and analyzed the historical character Feng Zhao more, but now there was no need. The entire screening process is very long, and the competition is very intense. Whether you can stay or not is still up to you. You have to see your own strengths and weaknesses clearly, Roman said unhurriedly. In 10 days, if the results were satisfactory, he could give Feng Zhao a chance to officially participate and provide Feng Zhao with a certain amount of guidance and assistance. There was only so much he could do. Feng Zhao stood up and solemnly said, "Many thanks." After leaving Roman's place, Feng Zhao directly returned to the guest room he had booked on the cruise ship and gave Duan Qianji a call. He needed to invite a professional acting instructor from Silver Wing to come over and guide him. Even if he was to act as himself, he still had to grasp the necessary techniques. After all, online guidance was limited, and Roman would not be able to provide much assistance to Feng Zhao. 10 days was still very tight. Yinzhou, Silver Wing headquarters. The time zone was different, and it was still daytime here. In the top-floor office, Silver Wing's big boss, Duan Qianji, had been a little vexed recently. A few of the company's big-name actors had recently been vying for roles. She had already given all the help she could, but none of them had been confirmed. Even the company's top A-list actor, He Lizi, had yet to receive a final contract. Of course, Duan Qianji also understood that there were many entertainment companies that were as anxious as Silver Wing. Everyone had the same feelings. Duan Qianji got her assistant to pour a cup of coffee. She was reading the latest reports when she received a call from Feng Zhao. "Feng Zhao, didn't you take a long leave for important matters?" "Sure, speak." "I'm listening." Cough, cough, cough. Duan Qianji, who was in the midst of refreshing herself with coffee, choked when she heard Feng Zhao's words. Duan Qianji's assistant looked at her in astonishment. Recently, she had really not seen her big boss so agitated. However, Duan Qianji could not care about anything else now. This news from Feng Zhao was too impactful. "Who did you say? Are you sure it's that Roman?" To get an audition opportunity from Executive Director Nova Roman, probably only A-list actors from various continents would be able to do so. If an A-list actor's skills were lacking, they simply had no chance. As for other people, they could not even find a shadow of Roman, let alone an audition opportunity. But Feng Zhao, a person who had nothing to do with showbiz circles, had actually gotten a rare opportunity from Executive Director Nova Roman. Duan Qianji forcefully suppressed her fluctuating emotions, but when she spoke, her tone still carried a trace of disbelief. "Where are you now?" "Tizansia cruise ship number 9, Feng Zhao replied. He is really on the cruise ship? There were too many smokescreens online. An hour ago, many people were still saying that Director Roman was there to participate in the auction, but very quickly, there were people refuting, saying that no one present had seen Roman. They had only seen a person with a similar figure to Roman. Everyone had just treated this as Roman's bluff. Who would have thought that it was actually true? All right, you stay calm for now. You mustn't leak any information. I will immediately arrange for someone to head over. Duan Xinji was even more nervous than Fang Zhao now. She had said that Fang Zhao must have had a motive for taking a leave previously. It was fine if he did not stir up trouble, but once he did, it would be a big deal. Regardless of how Fang Zhao had gotten this opportunity, Duan Xinji only cared about the results now. Where there was an opportunity, there was anticipation, and there was a possibility. Every opportunity had to be grasped. After Duan Xinji hung up, she followed Fang Zhao's request and flipped through a few names that she was satisfied with. She looked at everyone's work arrangements and then made a call. On a certain floor of Silver Wing Tower, Silver Wing's specially contracted instructor Shen Wei, who was currently training over a dozen second- and third-rate actors, received Duan Xinji's call and left at the last minute. This batch of students thought that Shen Wei had left to take a call and would return very quickly. Unexpectedly, half an hour passed, and Shen Wei did not return. Instead, a younger instructor came over. Senior Shen Wei has something to attend to at the last minute. I will be replacing him for this batch of training and teaching everyone. When the students heard this news, doubt and astonishment surged in their hearts like a surging tide. However, on the surface, they still did their best to maintain a "we understand, we will cooperate, and we are very obedient and quiet," but from time to time, their flickering gazes and their seemingly focused thoughts that had flown elsewhere simply could not be hidden from the instructor. However, this younger instructor did not say anything. He knew what these people were thinking. Actually, even he himself was puzzled. Classes had already started 2 days ago, and now there was a change of instructor. Changing instructors was not a rare occurrence, but now was different. This was a sensitive time. Could it be that another actor in the company had gotten a chance to audition? Otherwise, the company would not have urgently transferred a veteran like Shen Wei away. Very quickly, this news quietly spread throughout the company. Shen Wei was really transferred away at the last minute? Confirmed, the news is true. How are the progress of the few first-rate and super first-rate actors in the company? Who has gotten a new audition opportunity? I don't know. That bunch of people are very secretive. Even if they get an audition opportunity, they will not divulge it. Then we can only wait and see who among the entertainment reporters will expose it first. Speaking of entertainment reporters, where did Wang Tai go? Wasn't he crowned Yinzhou's paparazzi king? He hasn't even let out a fart. There really hasn't been any news of him recently. At times like this, he is too quiet. It doesn't seem like his style. I feel uneasy. I keep feeling that he is holding back his big move. Chapter 296. Regardless of the turbulence within Silver Wing, Fang Zhao, who was far away at Tianxia, had already contacted Shen Wei. Shen Wei had not calmed down from the moment he had received the assignment until he boarded the flying transport. He had received a call from Duan Xinji. He had originally thought it would be for one of the few A-list actors in the company. Duan Xinji had not said much, only asking if he could spare some time in the near future. After receiving an affirmative reply, she had made him sign a confidentiality agreement. Shen Wei's heart trembled when he saw the seriousness. He knew this was a big deal and did not dare be careless. At the same time, he realized this was an opportunity for him. He had kept his mouth shut when he should not have said too much, afraid that he would lose this rare opportunity. After handing over the company's matters, he boarded the flying transport arranged by Duan Xinji and flew straight to Tianxia. Only after he had left Yinzhou did Duan Xinji tell him who this trip to Tianxia was for. Who would have thought? Shen Wei had lost count of the number of times he had felt this way. That bunch of people in the company had made all sorts of guesses, but they would never have guessed that it would actually be for Fang Zhao, someone who had nothing to do with acting. Unlike Duan Xinji, who was more concerned about results and profits, Shen Wei, who had started out as an actor, understood how difficult it was to get an audition for this film project. Getting an important role was even more difficult. He really wanted to know why Fang Zhao had gotten this important opportunity. On the way to Tisanxia, he had been conflicted about this. Many times, actors were passive. They could not choose, only be chosen. What exactly was it that made Roman, the executive director, give Fang Zhao this precious audition opportunity? Could it be that there was some sort of insider trading? However, on the first day he had arrived at Tisanxia to guide Fang Zhao, Xinwei had some understanding. Analyzing Fang Zhao's personality and looking at the settings of Fang Zhao in the script, it could be said to be a natural performance. It could be said that having no moves was better than having moves. This could also be considered an advantage. If the personality was too different, the actor was not in the industry, and he did not have strong backing and connections, there would be no way he would get the chance to audition. However, natural performance did not mean that one would be how one normally acted. One still had to combine the settings of the characters in the film and set out from oneself to create this character. As for Fang Zhao himself, besides some basic skills that he had to master, he also needed to know how to act well and how to present an effect that could move the audience. This was Xinwei's job. To be chosen by Duan Qianji to coach Fang Zhao, Xinwei definitely had a high standard. He was also the most suitable person to coach Fang Zhao. He knew how to help Fang Zhao understand the things that would definitely be used during the audition in the shortest time possible. As for the rest, he would simplify them and would not have enough time to explain them in detail. After Xinwei arrived at Tisanxia, Fang Zhao basically didn't leave his room. The cruise ship was still sailing, and he couldn't return to Tisanxia for the time being. He asked Yin Biao, who had stayed on Tisanxia's main island, to settle the people down, and then contacted Xinwei through the internet to receive online teaching and guidance. This time, Fang Zhao rented a seaside villa. Tisanxia had many such buildings for tourists. For the sake of confidentiality and for the convenience of this important performance learning session, Fang Zhao rented a seaside villa. Meanwhile, on the internet, a video caused a heated discussion. One of the passengers on the cruise ship uploaded a hastily filmed video of him climbing the rock wall when he was posting photos of his trip. The people of Tisanxia, who prided themselves on being knowledgeable, were shocked. There were too many people reposting the video, and at some point, it became the top news in the Tisanxia region. The person who had filmed the video had been in too much of a hurry and hadn't captured the first part of the video. He had only captured the scene of the other party climbing the rock wall at high speed. Quite a number of people online, both professional and non-professional, had analyzed the video. That speed, it must be fake, right? Was it post-processed? How did he do it? It looks like he did it barehanded, but maybe he had some other hidden equipment. It doesn't feel like it was prepared. Instead, it feels like he just came out from a banquet or something. I know, it's definitely a publicity stunt. Let's just sit back and wait for things to develop. I wonder which athlete is going to change careers and enter the entertainment circle. According to some insider news, I heard that a few rather good-looking extreme athletes are planning to change careers. It's not them. Yesterday, they were in a mountain range in Muzhou, doing a live broadcast of climbing a snowy mountain. Let's not guess. Let's just wait and see. The teams behind them will surely follow up. That's true. Let's wait and see things develop. Then, as a bunch of people waited, the matter continued to develop, and then it was gone. The rock climbing incident on the Tisanxia cruise ship was quickly pushed aside by other matters. There was no longer any momentum to bring it up. Just like that, it really went cold. This made people who thought they had seen through everything dumbfounded. This isn't right. Where is the publicity stunt? Where are the athletes who changed careers? Where did they go? Tisanxia? Yin Biao was watching videos online while talking to Zuoyu. Others might not have recognized him, but as Fang Zhao's bodyguard, Yin Biao could still recognize the back view. He was just a little unsure, so he called Zuoyu to confirm and at the same time ask him what exactly was going on the cruise ship. Zuoyu had a blank look on his face. I'm not sure either. After I hung up with my boss, I had a cup of coffee and listened to a song. Then I realized my boss was in the headlines again. Although it was just a local headline, it was still a headline. In a moment of carelessness, his boss had appeared on the news. What use do I have you? Yin Biao felt that Zuiyu was really incompetent as a bodyguard. Compared to the focus of attention of the people of Tisanxia, the focus of attention of the people from the other continents was naturally different. Based on all sorts of information, both real and fake, they analyzed whether Director Roman was on this cruise ship or not, in which celebrities had successfully blocked his way. Every time this happened, the people who received the most scolding were the well-known entertainment reporters from other continents. Over at Yinzhou, Wang Tai received the most scolding. Fu Rui looked at the comments online and asked Wang Tai, "Godfather, should we make a move?" Wang Tai shook his head. Not enough. Continue to wait and follow. Wang Tai had been suppressing the news he had shot recently because he felt that now was not a good time to do so. Not revealing any news at all? Godfather, haven't you seen the discussions online? Everyone is saying that your throne is in danger. It's just talk. It's not like I'll lose anything. It's better than being thrown into the sea to feed the fishes. Believe it or not, if I were to hand out these now, Fang Zhao wouldn't even need to wait until tomorrow to block our doorstep. Fu Rui had wanted to say that at worst, he could just hide and slip away after releasing the news. But when he recalled his previous experience with Fang Zhao, he held back. Then we continue to follow? The news can still be kept up? Fu Rui was worried that if they received news that Fang Zhao had been eliminated in a few days, then the news they had would be devalued. Even if they released it, they would be mocked for choosing to follow Fang Zhao instead of the big shots. Anyone with a brain wouldn't have chosen this way. Did Wang Tai have a brain? Fu Rui didn't dare say. But he still chose to carry out Wang Tai's plan. So be it if he's a moron. Wang Tai paused for a moment when he brought up this matter. He had actually been mulling over whether his decision to bring a team to Tisanxia had been the right one. But in the end, he had decided to follow his intuition and trust in his keen senses as Yinzhou's top entertainment reporter. I'm definitely right. Continue to follow. Wang Tai said. Yes. Oh, right, master. Where's Xiaobo? I haven't seen him today. How's his progress? Fu Rui was a little worried that he hadn't been able to contact his little buddy. Getting vaccinated. He was bitten by a dog while taking photos. Wang Tai replied. What? Whose dog was he bitten by? The one Fang Zhao keeps. It looks like a small puppy. Godfather, you used to say we had to be on guard against Fang Zhao, but you never said we had to be on guard against his dog. Wang Tai took the opportunity to exhort Fu Rui. That's why this line of work is still very dangerous. We have to be on guard at all times. Not just against people, but also against animals. No matter when, no matter what kind of creature we face, we can't be careless. These little fellas had become arrogant after a few hits. They needed to be taught a lesson. Regardless of the discussions online, Fang Zhao didn't pay any attention to them. He focused wholeheartedly on this audition. After resolving the incident on the cruise in a low-key manner, he didn't go out for the remainder of the cruise. When the cruise reached its destination, he quietly left with the crowd and received guidance from Shen Wei. Several days later, on the last day of the deadline Roman had given him, Fang Zhao arrived at the address Roman had given him. There was a room for the audition. Before coming, Shen Wei had said to Fang Zhao, some things don't mean that you will get them just because you desire them. You also don't mean that you can get rid of them just because you reject them. Do your best, but don't force things. Getting a chance to audition was already not bad. For someone like Fang Zhao who wasn't in the industry, getting this kind of experience that many people yearned for but couldn't get was already not easy. He had talent that people envied, and he had been studying very seriously these past few days. He had already done well enough. If he couldn't get the best result, there was no need to be conflicted. Over the years, Shen Wei had seen too many talented actors. This bunch of youngsters were too prone to misunderstandings. Sometimes, after one setback, they wouldn't be able to recover. As a senior, Shen Wei would still mention what needed to be said to Fang Zhao. Roman didn't appear. His assistant received Fang Zhao and his entourage and then led Fang Zhao to the audition room. Shen Wei, Zuiyu, and Yin Biao were waiting in the living room. Shen Wei was a little disappointed that he hadn't seen Director Roman in person, but he quickly started to worry about Fang Zhao. As an accompaniment, he was even more nervous than the examinees. There weren't any props in the audition room. It was practically an empty room. Only during the audition would there be some projections to create a scene. There were 3 audition scenes, all of which had been chosen by Roman. One was a dialogue scene, one was a martial arts scene, and the last one was specially picked by Roman. It was considered an additional question, and the actors were free to express themselves. I'll give you 5 minutes to prepare for each scene. Roman didn't ask Feng Zhao if 5 minutes was enough. After he finished speaking, he took a document and sat down at the side. He had been very busy recently. Giving Feng Zhao this audition opportunity was something that he had painstakingly gotten. According to Roman's plan, each of the 3 scenes would have 5 minutes to prepare. Including the acting time, it would definitely be done within half an hour. Half an hour later. Chapter 297. Xinwei withdrew her gaze from the audition room once again. As time passed, her heart, which had calmed down for a long time, became restless again. The audition takes so long? Half an hour had already exceeded his estimation. If it was just a formality, or if Roman wasn't satisfied with Feng Zhao's performance, there simply wouldn't have been a need for such a long time. Could it be that there was progress? The more Xinwei thought about it, the more restless he became. He looked at the time every 2 minutes, drank 3 cups of tea, got up, and walked around 7 or 8 times. Not only did he not calm down, he became even more restless. With expectations, some irrational and unrealistic ideas would appear. Who didn't want to think about things in a better direction and look forward to them? Who wouldn't want better? For Roman to give Feng Zhao a chance to audition, he definitely thought highly of Feng Zhao. A director who always liked to take risks and use newcomers. The more he thought about it, the faster his heart beat. Xinwei's fingers on the teacup trembled. Although he would not be the one auditioning, if Feng Zhao really got the role, as Feng Zhao's mentor, the benefits he would receive would be extremely tempting. Calm down, calm down. Xinwei kept telling himself to stay calm. An hour passed. Not only did Xinwei's heart not slow down, but it also beat even more intensely. He clenched his fists tightly, otherwise his fingers would have trembled from nervousness. Unable to sit still, Xinwei got up and paced around a few times, drank a few glasses of water, and went to the bathroom twice. Xinwei kept telling himself to stay calm, but when he finally saw the door open, Xinwei, who had just sat down, bounced up from the chair and uncontrollably walked a few steps towards the door. When Feng Zhao came out of the audition room, there was no trace of excitement on his face. He was so calm that Xinwei felt a chill in his heart. "How is it?" Xinwei asked with difficulty. He wanted to ask why it took so long and what was going on inside. He wanted to ask too many questions, but in the end, he could only force out these 3 simple words. "Go back and wait for the results," Feng Zhao said. "What?" Xinwei wanted to ask more, but he quickly realized that this place was not suitable. After leaving Roman's house, on the way back, Xinwei found out the details from Feng Zhao. The audition went well. This kind of important role isn't something director Roman can decide on. He told me to go back and wait for news, Feng Zhao explained. Oh yes, that's true. Xinwei had calmed down and understood. Although he was a little disappointed that he didn't hear the result that he wanted to hear the most, but on second thought, it didn't mean that there was still a chance. How much longer do we have to wait? Xinwei asked. Director Roman did not say, but he did say that the matter will definitely be settled within a week. In 2 days, he will return to Huangzhou to finalize the cast of a few important roles, Feng Zhao said. Just as Xinwei had said, Feng Zhao did not worry about personal gains and losses. He had already done all he could. Now all he had to do was wait for the results. Even if the results were not satisfactory, he would accept it. At least he tried, didn't he? By the way, why did you take so long to audition? Xinwei asked. At first, I tried 3 scenes. Then, director Roman spent an hour explaining the scenes to me. Then, he requested for 3 more scenes. Speaking of this, Feng Zhao was indeed very grateful to this great director. Although this great director had his own selfish motives, it was also beneficial to Feng Zhao. Director Roman personally explained the script to you? Wei was shocked. He even gave me some pointers on some acting techniques, Fang Zhao said. Not bad. To be able to receive his guidance, it seems that this great director really thinks highly of you. Wei couldn't help but have a satisfied smile on her face.
Boss.
Yin Biao, who was in the front passenger seat, said, "These few days, there have been people watching us. I also noticed them when you went to audition, but they maintained a certain distance. The other party is very cautious." "The bunch that curly hair bit last time?" Fang Zhao asked. After returning from the cruise, Fang Zhao had found out from Yin Biao that curly hair had bitten a sneaky person who had been following them. However, he had not bitten the person to death, and the other party had escaped quickly, so Yin Biao had not been able to catch him. After that, Yin Biao and Zuoyu had asked Fang Zhao if he wanted to catch the person, but Fang Zhao had indicated that they could ignore it. Probably. From Yin Biao's point of view, to deal with this bunch of people who had been following and secretly taking photos, they should be caught and beaten to death. However, it was very clear that Yin Biao did not understand the persistence of these entertainment reporters in digging up news. Wei also did not approve of Yin Biao's way of handling things. He had seen too much, and from his point of view, dealing with these entertainment reporters wasn't the most important thing right now. The company's public relations team wasn't just for show. Just let the company's people keep an eye on things and suppress bad news. At times like this, the company was more than happy to spend more money. Fang Zhao, don't worry about anything else now. Read more books and online tutorials on acting, as well as some online courses. Ask me if you don't understand anything. Be prepared, Wei advised. Although the chances weren't high, but what if? What if he really got chosen? As a newbie who couldn't even be considered an actor, what Fang Zhao needed to do was to put in effort in terms of his acting skills and be ready to enter the cast at any time. If he really got chosen and couldn't keep up with the progress of the cast, he would still be eliminated. If that happened, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. There's no end to fighting entertainment reporters. The more you fight, the more they follow. Wei told Yin Biao, "Let's not talk about other continents. Just in our Yinzhou alone, how many people in the industry want to throw the few entertainment reporters who are ranked in the top ranks into the sea to feed the fishes? But aren't they still alive and kicking all day long?" Wei felt that as a senior in the industry, he had a heavy responsibility. He seized the opportunity to give lessons to Fang Zhao. Even Yin Biao and Zuoyu, who were his bodyguards, couldn't avoid it. The difference was that what he taught Fang Zhao was professional knowledge, while what he taught Zuoyu and Yin Biao was how to deal with troublesome matters that often happened in the industry. Fang Zhao also earnestly absorbed the techniques that Wei taught him. Opportunities were always given to those who were prepared. Just as Wei had said, before he got eliminated, he had to be ready to enter the cast at any time. Elsewhere, Director Roman was on a call with his colleagues in Huangzhou, discussing Fang Zhao's situation. However, he didn't directly state which actor it was or what his background was. He only said that Fang Zhao was a very talented person who was very suitable for the role. "You don't understand. When he stood in front of me, he gave me a very strange feeling. At that time, he matched the character in my heart." Stop looking for excuses. Are you getting restless again to do something big? Roman, I'm warning you. This founding era project has to be treated as a milestone. A milestone? Do you know what that means? You should know how many people are watching this project and understand its importance. You should still follow the rules. Roman could feel the other party's agitation through the communications device. I know. You guys are just worrying for nothing," Roman said impatiently. "Do you think I want to say all this? Roman, you have a criminal record. If you don't say this, I won't be at ease. Remember, this time, we better be well-behaved and follow the rules of the industry. Don't stir up trouble. This project isn't your word alone. There's still the committee of 100 above you. None of them are easy to deal with. Don't stir up trouble. Otherwise, your position as executive director might not be stable." "All right, how can I not understand all this? Let's cut the crap. The preliminary preparations are almost done. The actors have to be decided as soon as possible. We will set off tomorrow morning. See you in Huangzhou." After ending the call, Roman's mouth twitched. According to the rules? Whose rules? Internally set rules? Without explicit rules, what bullshit rules are they? This time, Roman was prepared to give those people a pleasant surprise. He was indeed very satisfied with Feng Zhao's performance. The Feng Zhao that Feng Zhao portrayed was exactly the same as the Feng Zhao in his heart. Too much to his liking. So much so that Roman was willing to take this risk and once again challenge the so-called rules of the industry. Strive for greatness. Roman knew how to turn a layman into a seemingly mature actor in a short period of time. Fortunately, Feng Zhao was extremely talented and had a strong comprehension ability. Although an hour was short, Feng Zhao had actually grasped all the important points of knowledge that Roman had given him. This feeling of unintentionally unearthing a treasure from a dense fog was Roman's favorite. Every time this happened, he felt especially great and especially satisfied. If an industry outsider saw the 3 scenes that had been arranged for Feng Zhao, they might not be able to tell the difference, but in the eyes of professionals, it was not a small improvement. It was also difficult to find any mistakes in the details. If this was Roman's own movie, he would have immediately made the decision, but this was Founding Era, Committee of 100 Roman, who had calmed down, looked at the projection and sighed helplessly. Feng Zhao, this is as far as I can help. The next day, Roman brought his assistant to Huangzhou. The relevant personnel were notified in advance, and the specific meeting time was decided. Huangzhou Arts and Culture Center's conference hall. This place was not big. Compared to many commercial venues, it was much more wretched. The furnishings also looked simple, but they were definitely not shabby. Here, the projection and sound equipment were all top-notch in the industry. There were not many seats, but every person who had the qualifications to sit in the conference hall either held a high position or had impressive qualifications. They were all people with status and authority. Roman looked at the time. It was about time. Projections appeared in the conference hall, one after another. In less than 10 minutes, the originally empty conference hall was filled to the brim with projections. And at the very front of the conference hall, which was separated from the other areas, the seats were even more spacious and had individual spaces. There were more than 100 seats there, and with the appearance of the projections, it was already almost full. Everyone in the Committee of 100 is here. Let us begin. The Committee of 100 that Roman was referring to was the people in the Founding Era project who had the right to vote on the actors who played important roles in the movie. Besides investors and representatives of the production side, these people were either outstanding seniors in the showbiz circles or had blood relations with these important roles. That was to say, they were the direct descendants of those heroes during the period of destruction, or they were the most outstanding among the later generations. There were a total of 100 of these people, also known as the Committee of 100, and they were seated in the specially designated area closest to the stage. The members of the Committee of 100 were scattered all over the world, and there were even some who stayed on foreign planets for long periods of time due to their duties. It was impossible for all of them to run back to Huangzhou for such a matter. Thus, this was an online voting session implemented through holographic projection. Just looking at the few people in military uniforms and the stars on their shoulders, one could tell how much weight they had. Roman's assistant cast a glance at the Committee of 100. Besides the few seniors in the entertainment circle who made his legs go soft, among the group of people in military uniforms, the lowest military rank was a lieutenant colonel. He looked very young and would definitely be promoted to general in the future. Although as Director Roman's assistant, this was not the first time he had seen such a situation. Every time he faced it, he would still be cautious and not dare to breathe too loudly. His steps were as light as possible, and his brain's nervousness was at its highest. His eyes and ears were alert in all directions, and he tried his best not to make any mistakes. Today, we need to confirm 3 important roles. One is Great General Wu Yan, another is Great General Agina, and the last one is Feng Zhao. Let us first choose Feng Zhao. Although Feng Zhao was not a great general of the Founding Era, he had played a pivotal role in that period of history. Without him, there would have been no Yanzhou. Even Wu Yan might not have survived. Feng Zhao's place in history was undeniable. Thus, although he was not a great general, he was still a very important character in the movie. When it came to choosing an actor, the committee of 100 would have to make a decision. On the large screen in front, Roman showed the photos of the 9 candidates he had selected. The 9 candidates were all photos with makeup on. A few of them looked very similar to Fang Zhao in history. There were always some similarities in their facial features, and after makeup, it was not easy to distinguish them at first glance. The 9 people that appeared on the screen were not labeled with the names of the 9 actors. There were only numbers from 1 to 9, which were completely random. However, people who were very familiar with certain actors would still be able to recognize them. Chapter 298. Looking at the 9 photos on the big screen in front of them, although the names of the actors were not marked, those who were more familiar with the entertainment industry had already begun to decipher them. They began to identify them one by one. However, when they reached number 7, they were stuck. I recognized the first 6. Who is this number 7? Someone in the group of 100 whispered to an old friend sitting next to him. Is it Dasmi? Another person asked doubtfully. No, Dasmi is number 9. Then, Nyan? That's not right. Nyan is number 2. That's strange. Could it be because of the makeup? I can't recognize him. At first, those who were whispering to each other were those in the entertainment industry or those who were more familiar with it. In the group of 100 area, there were a few people in military uniforms sitting in the 3rd row. Although they had different surnames and did not belong to the same military region, they all knew each other. Normally, they were busy like dogs and did not pay attention to the entertainment industry. However, as elites among the descendants of great generals and representatives, they still had the right to vote when it came to casting. When the founding Eric project had been established, it had been told that this series would be broadcast to the entire military region. It was a must-watch series. Since it was a must-watch series and they had the right to vote, they naturally had to represent their respective military regions and choose an actor that was pleasing to the eye. Don't want actors that had scolded the military region. Don't want actors that were morally corrupt. Don't want actors that did not have the right temperament. In general, they had to be pleasing to the eye and satisfy them. If the actor was not good and the military region broadcast the series, what was the difference between that and forcing them to eat shit? Thus, they had all come with a mission. At this moment, the people sitting in the 3rd row heard the discussions around them and were instantly amused. 9 actors. That bunch of people can't even recognize them all, let alone those of us who do not pay attention to the entertainment industry. I can only tell that these are 9 different people, but I don't know who they are. I don't know any celebrities. I can still recognize the faces of female celebrities, but I can't remember the male ones. They don't seem to leave a deep impression. I just heard someone say number 7. I feel that number 7 looks a little familiar. I think so too, but when I was on vacation, I watched a few dramas online with my wife. I found a few of them familiar. Number 7 looks familiar too. He must have acted in some dramas recently. It's just that I can't tell from the makeup and the scars on his face. Those who knew Roman looked at the 9 actors on the big screen and listened to the discussions around them. Suddenly, an ominous premonition arose in their hearts. Something doesn't feel right. That number 7, do you recognize him? I've already matched the other 8. Only number 7 looks familiar, but I can't place him. Do you guys think that Roman fellow is going to stir up trouble again? No way. This was the founding era project. When I spoke to him yesterday, I specifically reminded him to follow the rules. Hard to say. They don't have to do anything big. Maybe it's just because of the makeup that people can't recognize them. After all, makeup photos are easy to deceive. When the audition video comes out, they'll be able to recognize them. That's right. When the audition video comes out, we'll know who it is. The big screen in front changed. The first scene of candidate number 1's audition video had already started playing. Candidate number 1 was a very famous actor. When that face with makeup and scars appeared on the screen, a few people who were familiar with this actor laughed. Their voting was definitely not absolutely fair. If the acting skills of the candidates were comparable, they would definitely vote for someone close to them or someone who had promised to help them. On the screen, A video of the audition was playing. On the dark mottled wall hung a few maps with all sorts of symbols. On the old but sturdy table, which was covered in all sorts of scratches, were some writing tools. It wasn't extravagant, but it had the characteristics of the period of destruction. Everything seemed to carry the smell of gunpowder and blood. There were some blurry figures in the room. This was a simulated image. When the actual filming started, there would be other actors. At this moment, these figures were all standing around the table. The whole scene was very quiet. Coupled with the furnishings in the room, it gave off a solemn feeling. This was an impromptu indoor meeting. A pair of hands covered in calluses and scars held a rolled-up map and unrolled it on the table. The scars on his face and the serious expression didn't make him look sinister, but his every movement naturally exuded a dignified aura that made people feel intimidated. In the video, Fang Zhao's face was slightly tilted to the side, as if he was listening attentively to someone. At the same time, his gaze swept across the map. He extended a finger and lightly tapped on a certain spot on the map. His gaze swept across the table like lightning, as if pausing on everyone for an instant. It made people's scalps tighten. 1 month is too long. There's no more time. Within half a month, this piece of land must be taken down. What followed was a slightly longer tactical analysis that combined the local weather, the situation, how to set up an ambush, the most suitable weapons and equipment, the distribution of movements, and various other potential threats. The low voice was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, but no other emotions could be heard. It also seemed to conceal all emotions, making it hard to fathom. The atmosphere was somewhat heavy. This was a segment that Roman had specially chosen. When the time came for the official filming, the camera definitely wouldn't be constantly focused on Fang Zhao. This scene was just preparation for the casting. Below the stage, people had already started to evaluate this performance. A retired old man said, "His lines are very good. For such a long segment, there are no problems with the logic and emphasis." Another person also looked at the large screen in front of him with satisfaction. Actors of their level rarely make mistakes like this. Very good control of the rhythm, and their ability to read lines to stir up emotions is also very strong. There aren't any major problems for the time being. Let's continue watching. In the video, the character continued speaking. Towards the end of the line, the killing intent in the words intensified. The weight of each word seemed to increase exponentially. Until the last line, the gaze of the Fang Zhao on the screen, which was looking at that region on the map, became as sharp as an unsheathed sword, unwaveringly nailed to the map. Whoa, not bad momentum. An old man in military uniform sitting in the second row laughed. A few people in military uniforms in the third row echoed. Seems like it's okay? Passable. As long as the momentum is enough, it looks pretty impressive. But another old man dressed casually and elegantly frowned slightly. A little overboard. This was a professor who had just retired from Huangzhou Institute of Art. He had nurtured countless outstanding actors, and he had students all over the world. Professionals like him analyze problems from a different perspective than industry outsiders. Thus, while watching this segment, he had discovered a few small problems and voiced them out. However, there were also people in the same industry who had different opinions. How is it overboard? I think it's just right. At this time, Fang Zhao was already a Yinzhou leader. Regarding the war during the period of destruction, whether it was theoretical knowledge or combat ability, he was already very strong. He ought to have the valiant momentum of a leader. Another person retorted. What kind of person was the historical Fang Zhao like? Perhaps in terms of battle skills, he might not have been the best, but to be able to endure 100 years of the period of destruction and become a leader of a region, his intellect, strategy, strength, and physique were all incomparable to others. When Founding Era opens, Fang Zhao will still be at his peak. He won't be as weak as he was towards the end, so his momentum should be strong. There's nothing wrong with this performance. Another white-haired old man also defended his student. Number 1 was his student, and they had always been in contact. This time, he would definitely be biased towards this student of his. The elegant old man from before shook his head when he heard this. That was not what he meant, but he did not say anything more. However, his tightly knitted brows did not show any signs of relaxing. Clearly, he still stood by his opinion. Ha ha ha, this is just the beginning. Watch to the end. There is still more to come. We can compare more. Isn't this what we are doing today? Right, right, right. Continue watching. There is still a fight scene at the end. There will definitely be no problem with a fight scene. This student of mine has done quite a lot in the past. This time, for the role of Fang Zhao, he even specially trained. Just like that, he had started to defend number one. By directly saying that number one was his student, he was hinting to others to give him face and vote for his student. Secretly, there were also people who ridiculed him. It would have been better if you hadn't said anything. Now that I know number one is your student, I will not vote for him. The competition for the 100-person team to select an actor was intense. The video continued to play. Everyone present watched attentively and scrutinized it. Number one's fight scene was indeed not bad. No matter how real it was, at least the acting was very good. A candidate's audition video ended. Below, someone had already written down an evaluation in their notebook. After watching it, they would pick out the one they thought was the best and vote. Following that, candidate number two's audition video was played, followed by candidate number three's, candidate number four's. 5 candidates' audition videos were played one after another. The debate below became even more intense. Some felt that their student performed the best, while others felt that their senior/junior brother performed the best. They are all very good. They are all very capable actors. Someone chose to smooth things over and did not want to offend anyone. Those without channels, connections, or background would not be able to get a script or a chance to audition. Therefore, those who could make it to the last step of the screening process were not simple characters. Those who were neutral and conservative chose not to offend anyone. When the time came to vote, they would directly abstain. The third row of people from the various military districts seemed to be in a daze. Listening to the discussions around them, their faces were cold. It seems like they are all right. They acted well, but that was all there was to it. They did not even recognize A-list actors. These people were often stationed on foreign planets and did not have much contact with the entertainment industry, especially in places with harsh conditions. For example, on planet Baiji before the discovery of the power mine, they could not even go online. Other than some military news and political education provided by the base to relieve their boredom, there was nothing else. They had never seen any entertainment gossip or popular movies or dramas. Of course, the most important thing was that they really had no interest in the entertainment industry. How annoying. Why did they have to take on this voting task? At first, they had thought it was very interesting, but after a few times, they were a little annoyed. They might as well bring people out to open up wastelands for mining and exploring the universe. At the same time, they could engage in friendly exchanges with some aboriginals from foreign planets. To be honest, there were actually many people around them who had superb acting skills. They usually wore masks when they acted, so they naturally had a pair of discerning eyes. If they were really allowed to act, in terms of acting skills, they might not necessarily be inferior to these professional actors. In front of them, actors were actually just so. They were not outstanding, but they could not be faulted. They did not chase stars and never paid attention to the entertainment industry, but sitting here, they would still give these actors the respect they deserved. Even if they were impatient, they would still sit here and quietly watch until the end before completing their task. A certain military major general looked at the time and said, "There are still 4 more. We will head over after watching this role. This is only the first role for today. There are still 2 more to choose. This is the same process for each of them. Sitting here and listening to this bunch of people's chatter feels more tiring than training. What can we do? Continue watching. This is the 6th one." When the 6th candidate's audition video finished playing, the surrounding professionals started debating again. Looking at those professionals around them, this bunch of people had seemed so upright at the start, but now that the list of candidates was almost over, the competition was intense, and the competition was on the table. There was even an old man who had just said he wanted to canvass for votes. The people in the 3rd row continued to be indifferent. There are still 3 left. Hey, it's number 7. It's the candidate number 7 that those people didn't recognize. The moment they heard number 7, the people who had been daydreaming suddenly perked up. They had to take a good look and see if they could recognize the person from the 3 audition videos. Who on earth was this number 7 actor? Let me see too. Maybe I'll recognize him before those people do. You don't even watch dramas. How many actors can you recognize? Chapter 299. A few veteran artists in the second row were also in discussion. Their focus was always on professional techniques. I have seen a historical video of Fang Zhao. This leader actually has his own unique characteristics. Others might not be able to detect it, but we can tell just by listening. When many people spoke, they would often emphasize their words. Sometimes there was only one. Sometimes there were several, and sometimes there would be pauses to express emphasis. And in that historical video, when many leaders were present at the meeting, Fang Zhao's speech was not long, but he had his own style of speaking, including pauses and emphasis. This was the typical style of Fang Zhao. When the previous 6 candidates had performed, they had also followed this style. Clearly, these people had seen some real historical video material and had indeed put in a lot of effort to study it. But in the end, they were still lacking a little. They could not replicate it completely. They could only simulate it roughly. Actually, their performances are very good. It is indeed hard to decide. They admired these young actors' professionalism and dedication to research. If they were given more time, they would surely do even better and be more similar to the real person in history. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. Art has always needed to be refined. It's number 7 now. This one. I have to take a good look. Roman stood in a corner, observing the expressions of the crowd. Candidate number 7's audition photo appeared on the screen. Following that was number 7's first audition video. It was the same scene and the same lines as the previous 6 candidates. Sitting in the first row of the 100-person team area was an old man with a head full of silver hair. His relaxed eyelids were slightly drooping, and his casual sitting posture seemed a little indifferent. But the moment candidate number 7 opened his mouth, his eyelids trembled. Then he straightened his body, widened his eyes slightly, and stared straight at the screen. As a veteran artist who had won countless awards, including the highest award in the art field, the Milky Way World Awards, this old man had the right to sit in the first row. Professionals would carefully analyze every easily overlooked detail of the actors, magnify those details, and then study, scrutinize, and evaluate them. This old man was no exception. The moment candidate number 7 opened his mouth, he could tell that there was something different about him compared to the previous 6 candidates. There were quite a few professionals present, and there were naturally some who could tell the difference. Yes, the same lines, the same scene, the same rhythm, the same pauses, stress, and drag were all the same. But the amazing thing was that they could actually find a sense of rhythm in such a passage. It was a casual, unique rhythm that didn't have many traces of deliberate embellishment. That kind of casualness seemed to have completely integrated into the character. This was the difference between him and the previous 6 candidates. Even those who were not proficient in this field could not explain it, but they could not help but listen to every word. Some of the people present were annoyed. Another strong competitor. What was more troublesome was that they couldn't recognize who this number 7 was. They always felt that he looked familiar, but they couldn't put a finger on him. This made many people go crazy. He looked at the others around him and asked with his eyes, "Do you recognize me?" But all he got in reply was a doubtful shake of the head. "I'm sure I've never seen him act before," a Huangzhou Institute of Art special grade teacher said. For them, every performer had their own unique performance marks. No matter what they were playing, their acting skills, their lines, and other details that were hard to detect were all unique marks. But now, they couldn't find an actor that matched the characteristics of number 7. Where on earth did Roman find this person? Those who were close to director Nova Roman searched their brains for all the famous actors in the world, but none of them matched. Looking at the other big shots in the industry, they all had puzzled looks on their faces. Clearly, those people were the same. They couldn't recognize him. That shouldn't be the case. If he looks familiar, he must be someone we know. But when they searched the TV series and movies they had seen, they still couldn't match him. This is strange. Just based on the lines, he could be distinguished from the previous 6. Many people looked at the performance of number 7 on the screen and analyzed it seriously. In summary, number 7 was indeed very close to the character in Founding Era. It couldn't be said that he was exactly the same as in historical photos, but the first impression he gave people was extremely similar. With such skills, could it be that he's a retired senior coming over to join in the fun? Someone guessed. If he was a retired senior, his acting skills definitely wouldn't be a problem, but would his body be able to last until filming the entire series? Would he be able to withstand the intensity of filming and keep up with the progress? Would Roman dare to use it? Some people caught a glimpse of Roman's smirk, and their hearts skipped a beat. There's a problem. There's definitely a problem with this number 7. They had worked with Roman for so many years and understood him all too well. As soon as they saw Roman smile, they knew this matter wasn't simple. How could he dare to stir up trouble in a project like Founding Era? Let's see how he cleans up the mess later. On the screen, the video continued. Just like the performances of the previous candidates, at the end of the long line, Fang Zhao stood up. The aura of a person who had fought his way through the decades during the period of destruction burst forth. Number 7's reaction was not as intense as the previous candidates. At first glance, he looked very calm, and his words were short. However, the determination and murderous intent contained in his words were stronger than any of the previous candidates when they reached his ears. This was a very peculiar feeling. This was especially true for the people in the third row, who came from various military regions. Even though it was just a video, when they looked at the face on the screen that wasn't ferocious at all, the moment that pair of calm eyes swept over them, they felt as if they saw something terrifying. Their nerves, which had been honed through countless missions, suddenly tensed up. After a few seconds, he took a deep breath and exhaled. What a strong killing intent. An old artist in the front was curious. Killing intent? This is killing intent? His feelings weren't that deep. It had to do with the environment he lived in. All he felt was a sudden chill on his back. It was a very strange feeling. At that moment, he couldn't help but avert his gaze. I'll use the star on my shoulder to bet. This fellow definitely has blood on his back. Originally, he wanted to say that this fellow definitely had blood on his back, but considering the occasion, he changed his words. However, the meaning he wanted to express was understood by everyone else. Not necessarily. Maybe he's someone from the Military Arts Academy. I heard that the people from the military academies have been training very hard these past few years to be able to train to this level. After all, military-style management is different from other art academies. To train to this level, what kind of training would he have to put in? Hey, Old Tan, aren't you in charge of the Military Arts Academy? Is this someone from your academy? He's really well hidden. Professor Tan had a blank look on his face. Who are you talking about? I don't know this person. Ha ha ha, don't deny it. I know you don't like to canvass for votes. Our voting is absolutely fair. It's not considered canvassing. This actor's acting is really good. Professor Tan panicked. I really don't know this actor number 7. I did recommend people for the role of Fang Zhao, but they were all rejected by Roman. He said they weren't artistic enough. What does a leader from the period of destruction need? Mentioning this made Professor Tan angry. He was 30% artistic and 70% hot-blooded. He was so depressed by Roman's harsh requirements that he wanted to vomit blood. When it came to the fighting scenes, his movements were clean, fast, and accurate. Every punch landed on flesh. It was very realistic and couldn't be faked. This was real ability. Hard work. Who is this? Who is number 7? An old man in a military uniform finally couldn't help but ask. Hey, old Charlie, who was that? Someone who didn't understand the entertainment industry asked someone in front who was more knowledgeable. I can't tell. Don't you know these actors very well? As the person in charge of approval, you should know these actors very well. How could you not recognize him? It's probably because of the makeup. Is that so? Doubtful. The makeup wasn't exactly the same. There were more or less traces of the actors. It wasn't that the makeup techniques couldn't be the same as in the historical missions, but in this project, they weren't allowed to make up exactly the same. Even if they looked exactly the same, there had to be differences. This was an internal rule and a requirement of the descendants of the founding heroes of each continent. Humans were contradictory. They wanted to be similar, but they didn't want to see an exact substitute. Many people felt that number 7 looked familiar. With this kind of acting and being placed in the final round of screening, it was enough to prove that number 7 had the ability. Based on conventional thinking, everyone thought that this person's status in the industry was definitely higher. This also made more people guess that he was a veteran of the showbiz industry. One scene might not mean much, but after 3 scenes, the members of the Committee of 100 were depressed. They didn't know what to say. They didn't feel that anything was wrong, but they just couldn't recognize him. A figure flashed across some people's minds, but they felt that it was ridiculous and impossible. They put it aside and continued guessing who number 7 was. The commotion caused by number 7 wasn't small. Everyone couldn't match his number, but they wouldn't waste too much time because of this. After that, the audition videos of number 8 and 9 candidates were played one after another. After the audition videos of the 9 candidates were played, Roman walked up to the stage again. The smile on his face was a little meaningful, but it was also a little tense and stiff. This is the performance of the 9 candidates. We will now begin the voting. You have 10 minutes. Everyone, please get ready. Discussions broke out in the venue once again. The members of the Committee of 100 who had the right to vote were canvassing for votes, discussing, and contemplating. After 10 minutes, Roman suppressed the nervousness in his heart. We will now announce the voting results. This result will decide who will play the role of Fang Zhao in the end. Please look at the big screen. On the screen in front, a statistical table appeared, showing the votes of the 9 candidates in descending order. Number 7, 21 votes. Number 9, 15 votes. Number 1, 12 votes. Number 2, 10 votes. Number 1 had 6 more votes than number 2. Number 7 was also the only one with more than 20 votes. Compared to the total number of votes, it wasn't considered much, but it could be said to be an absolute advantage. To be able to obtain more than 20 votes under such intense circumstances was rather rare. Looking at the voting results, the faces of those present were a myriad of colors. Some were ashen and gloomy. Some were flushed, but it wasn't clear whether it was from anger or excitement. There were also some who were pale and disappointed. Of course, there were also those who were calm, but it was unknown whether they were really calm or just pretending. Roman looked at the voting results on the screen and felt his heart race. His blood temperature soar, and he could no longer suppress the smile on his face. He wanted nothing more than to laugh out loud, but he had to maintain his composure as an executive director and continue presiding over the meeting. Would the Committee of 100 please verify the voting results again? Roman tried to control his wildly beating heart. This was a necessary procedure. It was to let the Committee of 100 check if their votes had been stolen from someone else. After the Committee of 100 completed their verification, the vote counting system verified that there were no mistakes. Roman once again flashed a meaningful smile. His face was filled with unconcealable glee. In that case, the role of Fang Zhao will be played by candidate number 7. As he spoke, Roman made a hand gesture. On the screen, there were 9 candidates and 9 makeup shots. Just like at the start, they were arranged in 3 rows. But the next moment, the photos flipped, and what appeared was the image of each candidate. At the same time, the information of the 9 candidates, such as name, age, and so on, appeared. Other than number 7, the youngest of the 8 candidates was 59 years old, and the oldest was 81 years old. However, in the new era, they were considered middle-aged. Only number 7 was an exception. Among the group of middle-aged men and women, that overly young face was especially eye-catching. Candidate number 7's photo was a half-length shot in military uniform, like a military ID photo. The actor's information was displayed. Fang Zhao, Yenzhou native, 25 years old. Chapter 300. After a moment of dead silence, the entire venue suddenly burst into an uproar. Fang Zhao? Which Fang Zhao? Who is this guy? Is it really that Fang Zhao from Yinzhou? How could it be this fellow? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Many glares flew forward, wishing they could smash the big screen in front of them. If it had been any other candidate, they would have accepted it. But Fang Zhao? A complete novice who wasn't even an actor, and now they were letting him take on the leading role? Could he? Why should such an important role be given to him? No way. Protest. Roman, this guy is no good. Someone shouted. Roman was in no hurry. He has the highest number of votes. Why can't he be? But he has never acted before. He has been an eye model before. He has acting talent and ability. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to get so many votes, right? Eye models don't count. What about works? Awards? What about qualifications? Someone who can't even be considered an actor, and you let him take on such an important role? That doesn't matter. He can learn, and I can teach. There's no time for him to slowly learn. When will he be able to? Halfway through, they stopped. Couldn't learn? How could he squeeze out the other 8 candidates if he couldn't learn? The voting results were still hanging on the screen. In any case, it's not safe. Some people were unconvinced. Roman, you are crazy again. I think you are tired of your position as head director. Hearing these criticisms, Roman let out a long sigh and lamented. You all know that I am a very principled person. I only choose the most suitable actor, and in my opinion, he is the most suitable. Roman didn't pay any more attention to them. Instead, he calmly faced the committee of 100 and asked, Old General Renault, do you have any objections to this result? Sitting in the first row was the retired Old General Renault, the father of the Lijiao governor. This time, he had also obtained voting rights. One could see how much this old man valued this film project. And in the voting just now, Old General Renault had cast his vote for number 7. Hearing Roman's question, the calm and composed Old General Renault calmly spat out a single word. None. Teacher Gaoding? Roman once again looked at the silver-haired old artist in the first row, the winner of the World Award. None. The old man chuckled. He also voted for number 7. In his opinion, the previous few candidates had either overplayed their roles by killing a chicken and killed a tiger, or killed the tiger as easily as stepping on an ant. Only number 7 was the most natural, and the acting was just right. He had only voted for the one that he was most satisfied with. Even though the truth was a little shocking, he still accepted it calmly. Brother Delay? Roman looked at the third person. Sigh. So be it. He is indeed the best actor. Professor Li, I won't. This young man's acting is quite good. Minister Toma, I think we should give the young people a chance. Even if he was beaten to death, he would not admit that he was blind. Teacher Vega? I don't doubt his acting skills, but I don't know much about the rest. After all, this is the person you recommended. I only have one question. Please go ahead. Roman's tone was somewhat respectful. This was his elective teacher when he was in university. Can he keep up with the progress? Yes. The moment I find out that he is a burden to the cast, I will kick him out myself and solve the cast problems. Since you have already thought it through, then I have nothing more to say. Roman looked at the Yenzhou Wu family representative. Mr. Wu? The Wu family representative's main focus today was to review the role of Wu Yin, but he also had to keep an eye on the role of Fang Zhao. The Wu family representative who had voting rights was not satisfied with the results. A youngster without any qualifications actually wanted to fight for the role of Fang Zhao? That was simply a pipe dream. But thinking about it, it was not impossible. The other few candidates, even if they were not first-rate, were still first-rate actors with great influence in their respective continents. They had deep foundations. For the role of Fang Zhao, if the actor's influence was too strong, the Wu family would feel uncomfortable. The Wu family also had people in the entertainment circle and were very experienced with the entertainment circle's public opinion. A tragic character like Fang Zhao could easily trigger public opinion online. If the acting was too good or too deep, the Wu family would be embarrassed. After all, during the founding era, the great general of Yinzhou was Wu Yin and not Fang Zhao, who had passed away earlier. Rather than letting an old actor with deep foundations portray the role of Fang Zhao, it was better to let a newcomer act. The current situation was instead the best choice. After thinking it through, the Wu family representative did not object. We respect the voting results. The biggest obstacle for the Yinzhou Wu family was gone. Following Roman's inquiry, the discussions in the venue became softer and softer. These big shots had expressed no objections. What else could they say? Could they let these big shots eat back the votes they had spat out? Swallow back the words they had said? They did not dare. And those who had abstained expressed that they did not support this result, but they did not object either. Their meaning was, regarding this matter, do as you please. I don't care anymore. Besides those from the military, there were also a number of veteran artists from the film industry who had voted for Fang Zhao. Thus, in the face of all sorts of doubts, Roman was confident and not anxious. He was also not worried that these protesters would go out and spout nonsense. They were all smart people and knew what to say when they went out. In this way, the results could not be changed. Roman smiled complacently in his heart. Really not disappointing. Taking this risk was not in vain. This little fellow, Fang Zhao, has popularity. Ability? The voting results were proof. Skill? Very good. Reportedly, it was a special grade. In addition to these audition videos and his understanding of Fang Zhao during this period of time, Roman was looking forward to Fang Zhao's performance in the movie. What is 25 years old? Someone in the venue lamented softly. For the 100-person group with an average age of 120, he is still a child. Letting such a young person act as Fang Zhao, could he really act well? After that, the venue continued with the voting for the two more important roles. With the blow of the Fang Zhao incident, this time, the voting was much more cautious, especially on guard against those who were difficult to recognize. They were afraid that the same situation as Fang Zhao would happen again. Even those who had voted for Fang Zhao had some regrets after finding out the truth. Fang Zhao was too insecure as a newcomer. If his performance in the movie was not good, then they, the voters, would be blind and would be attacked by comments. Luckily, the candidates for the last two roles were all familiar faces. Roman himself only dared to take this risk once. How would he dare to play with his heart every time? He still did not want to move from his position as head director. And just as the voting for the last two roles continued, on social media platforms, Yinzhou's paparazzi king, entertainment reporter Wang Tai, posted a new piece of news. The role of Fang Zhao in Founding Era has been confirmed. It is someone you will never expect, everyone. Guess who it is? Wang Tai posted 9 pictures in a row. The 9 stars in the 9 pictures were the 9 candidates who had been selected for the role of Fang Zhao. That yo and the ecstatic wavy lines showed how much Wang Tai's mood was rippling at the moment. It had to be said that Wang Tai indeed had his valiant information network. He had gotten the news almost as soon as the Huangzhou side had confirmed the role. He had found out even earlier than Fang Zhao. However, Wang Tai also understood that Fang Zhao had yet to officially sign a contract to join the cast, so he couldn't make too much of a fuss. He could use this opportunity to rake in some money and sell some information. As long as he controlled the situation, nothing would happen. Otherwise, if he made too much of a fuss and ruined the contract that Fang Zhao was about to secure, Silver Wing would not let them off so easily, let alone Fang Zhao knocking on their door to block them. As an entertainment reporter who had survived to this day, Wang Tai still knew how to survive in a tight space. If the cast and crew had not signed a contract, the news would not be made public, and the people participating in the meeting would not go around spouting nonsense. Wang Tai could still sell the information for some money. However, Wang Tai also knew how to whet people's appetites. 9 pictures, 9 stars. The other 8 were all veteran actors. No matter which one it was within expectations. Only Fang Zhao in the 7th picture was different. The background of the picture was a cruise ship, and the words Tizansia number 9 could be clearly seen. When many people saw Wang Tai's post online, there was an uproar. Does old Wang mean that he has chosen Fang Zhao? I have thought about it. Of these 9, the most unexpected one is really Feng Zhao. He is really going to let Feng Zhao play Feng Zhao? Wasn't it said to be a joke? Bullshit. Bluff. Keep bluffing. Why choose him? Because they look alike? I have completely lost all hope in this world of looks. Bullshit. There are plenty of people who look more alike than him. I feel that it is because they share the same name. That's even more ridiculous. Does he really think that he can do whatever he wants with this name? This series has an epic background, not a comedy. Is it really okay to let a little fresh meat play this role? If this is true, I deeply suspect that there is some shady plot behind this. Can such a delicate guy act as an old soldier who has experienced the vicissitudes of life? Feng Zhao also came from the military. He is no worse than anyone else. Feng Zhao supporters retorted, "That's not the same thing. As the old saying goes, different professions are worlds apart. Feng Zhao has crossed the line too far. Furthermore, his age and qualifications are there. Why would they choose him? My Zhao God is really omnipotent." A certain brainless fan was so excited that his brain was no longer logical. "Don't worry about your balls if you take too big a step," someone said sourly. At the same time, the fake fresh meat Feng Zhao was also bombarded with phone calls. There were friends and family, as well as actors from the same company that he had never contacted before. All of them were asking if he had really been chosen. Feng Zhao's reply was, "I haven't received the notification yet." Now, these people were so smart. Feng Zhao's "I haven't received the notification yet" meant that what Wang Tai had said was the truth. It was just that he had not been notified yet. After seeing Wang Tai's post, Duan Qianji had already found out the voting results through her own channels and informed Feng Zhao of the matter. She specially reminded Feng Zhao, "Don't worry about the movements online. The company's public relations team is here. What you need to do now is prepare to join the cast." "Shunwei, focus on guiding Feng Zhao during this period," Duan Qianji instructed. "Don't worry, I will definitely do my best." When she had found out the voting results, Shunwei had looked at Feng Zhao with envy and disappointment. She had all sorts of feelings in her heart. But after waking up, Shunwei suddenly felt a sense of mission. Chapter 301. On the internet, the entire world was paying attention to the revolutionary film project, Founding Era. Any news about an important role would be a hot topic. People with reliable information channels would know about it before the general public. In succession, a few well-known entertainment reporters and paparazzi teams from other continents also released news confirming that Feng Zhao had indeed won the vote in the Committee of 100. Although there were many entertainment reporters who released this news, the most popular one was still Wang Tai. Why? Because he had exclusive information. He knew how Feng Zhao had obtained the role. Many ambitious people who had yet to squeeze into the cast of Founding Era could not sit still. Wasn't it because there were still some important roles that had not been finalized? If they could learn from Feng Zhao's case, perhaps they could obtain a satisfactory role like Feng Zhao? They did not have high hopes for those especially important roles. They would be satisfied if they could survive one season in the series. Was one season too difficult? No problem. 7 or 8 episodes were not too much. 2 or 3 episodes were not too little. If they did not make a move now, they would not even have the chance to get a minor role. For this, they were willing to spend more money to buy information. Perhaps there really was a secret shortcut? Newcomers in the showbiz circles were getting restless. If this had not happened, they would have given up on this idea. But now that an outsider like Feng Zhao had snatched such an important role, many people were green with envy. How could these people, who had a foundation in acting and were trained in acting, lose to Feng Zhao? No way. They had to fight for it, even if they had to risk their lives. Now, no one could say that newcomers had to stand aside. Not everyone was an A-list movie star, and not everyone had a heaven-defying background, but Feng Zhao's appearance meant that those without fame or background also had a chance. This was what Wang Tai was planning. At this moment, Wang Tai was hiding in his own secret base, lying on the sofa and swinging his legs as he answered a phone call. Ever since he had sent out that message, his phone had not stopped ringing. Not to mention the private messages on his online platform. They were about to explode. This time, Wang Tai's attitude was very high. Exclusive information. Want to know how Feng Zhao had obtained the role? Come on, buy it with money. If the price is not high, I will not sell. On the same day, following the confirmation of Feng Zhao's role, the voting results for the two heavyweight roles of Wu Yin and Aquilina were released. However, this did not diminish the impact that Feng Zhao's matter had on the entire entertainment industry. The actor who got the role of Aquilina was an actor from Ajo. He had won many awards and was very famous around the world. As for her getting the role, although there was still a lot of controversy online, it wasn't a big deal. As for Wu Yin, because the story would start from when Wu Yin was young, they decided to use 3 actors. One was a popular child star who would play the role of Wu Yin when he was young. One was Wu Yun, Yinzhou's famous movie star and a direct descendant of the Wu family. He would play the grown-up Wu Yin. Wu Yun's acting skills were lacking when compared to his predecessors, and his global ranking was not considered high, but he was still a member of the Wu family. There were many fans in Yinzhou, and his support was rather high. All in all, there was nothing worth arguing about. And the person who played the middle-aged to elderly Wu Yin was Yinzhou's A-list star, He Lizi. Wu Yun could not play the role of the late Wu Yin, so he did not embarrass himself and gave up his seat. This was also the result of He Lizi's discussion with the Wu family. Wang Tai also had a lot of information about He Lizi's contact with the Wu family. He Lizi's situation was not an isolated case. In the entertainment industry, everyone relied on their own abilities to fight for resources. Exchanges of benefits were all too common, so there was nothing worth arguing about. The role of Wu Yin was much more important than Feng Zhao's. To be able to play the mid to late Wu Yin was worth bragging about, provided that there was no Feng Zhao involved. Now, all the limelight had been stolen by Feng Zhao. He did not make as many headlines as Feng Zhao. He Lizi's team had privately spent money to buy a lot of entertainment news headlines from various continents. 5 hours later, Roman informed Feng Zhao to head to a designated place within a day for a physical examination and a physical test. If there were no problems, they would discuss the contract. Feng Zhao had long made his preparations. He set off the moment he received Roman's official notification. The physical test was naturally no problem. Silver Wing had specially arranged for a contracted team to tag along, so Feng Zhao did not have to spend much effort. Currently, Silver Wing had listed Feng Zhao as a key development target. In the competition for roles in Founding Era, other than He Lizi who had snatched the lead role, the other movie stars that had high hopes placed on them had suffered a Waterloo. Instead, it was the unrestrained Feng Zhao who had given them a pleasant surprise. Of course, their focus had to shift. Roman took some time out of his busy schedule to say a few words to Feng Zhao. The more important the role, the greater the pressure an actor had to bear. Heavy scenes were bound to be very tiring. From Roman's point of view, Feng Zhao was still too young, and this was his first time acting. He had to say a few words to set his mind at ease. Perform well. You are representing my face. If you don't perform well, you will be kicked without mercy. This was not only for Feng Zhao. Roman had the same request for the other actors in the cast and crew. If they could not keep up with the progress of filming and drag the cast and crew down, then they should get the hell out of here. After Feng Zhao officially signed the contract, Founding Era officials very quickly announced the actors for the 3 new roles. Among them, it was clearly stated that Feng Zhao would be playing the role of Feng Zhao. This news was like a shock wave that impacted the entire entertainment industry. Official stamp. It's actually him. It's actually him. This made people who were originally doubtful sink into self-doubt. In the end, were they unable to keep up with the times? Or had the rules of the industry quietly changed? Feng Zhao? Who was he in the showbiz circles? How did he get this role? Why was it like this? Were all the newcomers these days so impressive? The media that had been observing from the sidelines also became restless. They wanted to interview this dark horse, Feng Zhao, but after searching left and right, they could not find Feng Zhao. If they could not interview the main character, they could stir up trouble. Many media outlets went to interview people in the showbiz circles to listen to the opinions of experts on this matter. Unfortunately, those with a bit of brain would not say much on this matter. This was decided by the Committee of 100. They were all big shots, and they did not dare question the decision of the Committee of 100. Regardless of what they thought in their hearts, the result was already decided. They also could not go and attack the faces of the 20-plus voters of the Committee of 100. They could not afford to offend them. Regardless of whether they agreed or not, at least they did not sing a different tune. Roman also praised Fang Zhao in a rare public manner. In an interview with a reporter, he said, "Fang Zhao was indeed recommended by me, but for him to get this role was also the result of the Committee of 100's voting. All I can say is that he is the most suitable. The choice of the Committee of 100 was not wrong." Of course, there was no lack of people who wanted to use this opportunity to make their presence known and questioned the Committee of 100's decision during interviews. Very quickly, another hot-tempered member of the Committee of 100 responded to this kind of matter in an interview. Questioned? Admitted? What a joke. Why do we need them to admit our decision? Are they more professional than me? Or do they know more about acting than I do? Regardless of how professionals and critics argued under the instigation of the media, this matter with Fang Zhao had indeed shocked the entire entertainment circle. It had directly shaken the original beliefs of some people. Many people exploded in anger and secretly clenched their teeth in hatred, regretting that they had not fought for a few more roles. A role that was publicly acknowledged by the industry to be qualified to fight for had been taken by an outsider. How could they not explode in anger? They were angry at themselves for not being resolute enough. They also hated those who had shaken their hearts. They were even more envious and jealous of this dark horse, Fang Zhao. At a certain bar, a drunk actor cursed. He, Fang Zhao, might have some fame in the music circles, but in the film circles, he's just this. As he spoke, he stuck out his pinky, pinching only the tip of his pinky. A passing waiter mocked him in his heart. Tisk, if I had to choose you, I would also choose Fang Zhao over you. You have no ability and are petty. You have a heart higher than the sky and are unwilling to contribute. It's better to stay away from you. Jinzhou, Ruan Shuang, who looked exactly like Fang Zhao during the period of destruction, stared blankly at the news. Yesterday, when he had seen the news leaked by Wang Tai and other entertainment reporters, he had still harbored some hope. Perhaps it was fake? Perhaps it was misinformation, another way of hyping things up? But now, he felt a burning pain on his face when he recalled the words he had said to Fang Zhao on the Tianxia cruise ship. So it turned out that Fang Zhao had simply not taken his words to heart and had used the truth to slap him in the face. Now, Fang Zhao had already signed a contract to play the role of Fang Zhao, and Ruan Shuang had not even been able to get a body double. Lijo. Zero pushed aside his hair that had turned into a bird's nest. His eyeballs were about to pop out as he stared at the headlines with an expression as if he had seen a ghost. WTF. The moment he woke up, he was hit by headlines. Gulping down a glass of cold water, Zero muttered, "It must be the way I opened the news." As he spoke, he picked up his communications device and made a series of death calls to his agent. How much effort had he put in? How much money had he spent? And how many beatings had he been given by his father in order to secure a satisfactory role in Founding Era? After much difficulty, he had finally secured a role. Yesterday, he had been mocked and ridiculed by that idiot Barbara, and today, he had been hit by the Fang Zhao incident. Unfair. What right does Fang Zhao have to play such an important role? Which blind fool chose him? They must have been blind. Zero said furiously. Great-grandfather is sitting in the first row of the Committee of 100. I heard he voted for Fang Zhao. Zero's agent, who had just rushed over, reminded Zero to be careful with his words. Zero. He must have been misled by someone. Great-grandfather is so wise and far-sighted. In any case, it's all your fault. Not being able to secure a satisfactory role for me is because you are too useless. Zero's agent was expressionless. Yes, it's all my fault. Zero double-labeled Dog Zero would not find fault with himself. Zero's agent was a scapegoat. However, Zero's agent also understood that Zero had a cheap mouth. He could just treat what he had said as bullshit. Zero would not really fire his agent. He had purely received a blow and needed to vent. Yet, Old Master Renault had voted for Fang Zhao, and Zero did not dare continue scolding him. Zero paced back and forth in the room, his face full of resentment. I really let this fellow snatch the role. How did he do it? He must have pulled some strings and played some tricks. Bah, I look down on this kind of person the most. After saying that, Zero turned around and gave his grandfather, the governor, a call. He wanted to suck up to the governor and get him to secure a role. Zero's agent cursed silently. Bah, double-labeled dog. One set of standards for others, yet another set for yourself. Don't you know what kind of conduct you have and how much you are worth? However, if Lijo's governor could really help Zero secure a decent role, it would save him a lot of trouble. Zero's agent thought to himself. Online. The focus of netizens changed very quickly. A while ago, they were still discussing Fang Zhao's acting skills and whether he could play the role of an old martyr. Now, they were digging up Fang Zhao's family background. After comparing Fang Zhao's looks to the historical Fang Zhao and thinking about the news from the past 2 days, I suddenly had a thought. Perhaps they are related by blood. Look at Wu Yun. He was able to snatch the role of Wu Yin because his surname is Wu. I just heard that Lijo Zero also got a pretty good role. There's no helping it. Who asked him to be surnamed Renault and enjoy special privileges? In the end, it still depends on the background. It still depends on the surname. Fang Zhao is also surnamed Fang. He looks 70% similar to the martyr Fang Zhao. An outsider without any background snatching the role of Fang Zhao. I definitely don't believe that there isn't some secret behind this. Remember when it was revealed that Fang Zhao's grandfather was a high-ranking military official? It's his great-grandfather. He's retired. Even a retired person still has influence. Who can dig up the background of the other people in Fang Zhao's family? Based on my keen sense of smell, honed from watching hundreds of detective films, the Fang family is definitely not as simple as it looks on the surface. There were many capable people online. No one knew where they had dug up this evidence, but when put together, it was quite a bluff. Yinbei Retirement Home for Retired Officials. When great-grandfather Fang saw these discussions online, he specially flipped through the household register and electronic family records. If I hadn't looked at the household register, I would have really believed this bunch of people's fabrications. They make it sound like the truth. The electronic household records that great-grandfather Fang had checked were like ancient genealogies. Chapter 302. Fang Zhao had received notification that the cast and crew of Founding Era would finalize the cast and crew for the remaining roles within a week. At the beginning of October, the cast and crew would set off for Planet Y. There was not much time left for them to prepare. Once they started filming, who knew when they would be able to return from Planet Y? Even with the advancement of technology, the production cycle had been greatly shortened. It was said that the series would be broadcasted on Memorial Day in January. The series was rather long. After all, it was about the past 100 years, so it would be broadcasted at the same time as filming. At that time, it would be hard for him to have free time to do other things, and it would be even more impossible for him to return to the mother planet easily. Because Fang Zhao couldn't return to Yinbei City for Memorial Day in January, he couldn't spend it with the rest of the Fang family, and he wouldn't be able to visit great-grandfather Fang. Therefore, after Fang Zhao settled matters in Qian City, he returned to Yinbei City to visit second uncle and the rest of the Fang family. He also went to the retirement facility to visit great-grandfather Fang and great-grandmother Fang. Great-grandfather Fang was very happy and dragged Fang Zhao for a stroll around the retirement facility. Actually, it was just to show off. Old people like to compare themselves. In the past, they used to compare whose position was higher and who was promoted faster. Now that they had retired, they would compare whose juniors were more promising. In the past, great-grandfather Fang had not liked the entertainment circles and had felt that it was a foul atmosphere. But ever since he had found out that Fang Zhao had entered the entertainment circles, great-grandfather Fang's attitude had changed. Furthermore, following a series of events, great-grandfather Fang was now paying close attention to the entertainment circles. Of course, he only paid attention to matters that involved Fang Zhao. Every day, great-grandfather Fang would go online to see if there was any news related to Fang Zhao. Great-grandfather Fong had just been exhorting Fang Zhao to pay attention to his health and to be on guard against people when his ears twitched. He heard footsteps in front of them and immediately smiled. Pulling Fang Zhao along, he said, "Let's go. Let's head over there." The few elders who were walking over saw Fang Zhao and smiled at great-grandfather Fang. "Old Fang, your family's little Zhao is back. There was no other way. He has to follow the cast and crew to planet-wide to film. When the time comes, he won't be able to spend Memorial Day at home. So little Zhao came over to visit the two of us. He bought quite a lot of things, including agricultural products that Muzhou farms don't sell to the outside world. With just the two of us old fellows, we can't even finish it." "Really? I was just telling him that even though he earns a lot of money, he shouldn't be too wasteful." The elders in front of them were speechless. Was the old man showing off that his great-grandson could make money and was filial? Sigh. Acting is so tiring. An old man sighed. Great-grandfather Fang's expression turned serious. "You call this acting?" "No. This was called completing a historical mission. As for founding era, even if we retire, we should all know its significance. I just told little Zhao that he isn't acting as a character. He is acting as faith. No matter how hard and tiring it was, he had to complete it seriously. If he slacks off, I'll be the first to punish him. Besides, if young people don't work hard, how can they live up to their hot-blooded age?" "Fang Zhao, that's not what you told me just now." Great-grandfather Fang exchanged a few more words with his old friends. After those people left, great-grandfather Fang's stern face immediately softened. He told Fang Zhao, "Those words just now weren't for you to hear. Fang Zhao, let me tell you, little Zhao, for this movie, we have to act well and be professional, but our own health is more important. Yesterday, I saw on the news that a certain movie star worked too hard when he was young and ended up with a body full of injuries. When he got older, he developed all sorts of illnesses. Even with current medical science, we might not be able to treat all of them. He suffers from ailments every day. How pitiful. So, it's necessary to fight hard, but don't fight too hard." Fang Zhao. Great-grandfather Fang continued, "It's still the same words. I've told you before. Be kind to others, but you can't let go of your guard. Especially since you are still a newcomer. I heard that the entertainment industry loves to bully newcomers without any backing. I can't help you much, but you have to be extremely careful. When you need to endure, endure. After all, you are still inexperienced in the industry. You have to endure some anger, but when it comes to your bottom line and when you shouldn't endure, you absolutely can't hold it in." Great-grandfather Fang even imparted a few shady tricks, all of which great-grandfather Fang had put into practice when he had been a soldier. "Do you remember what I just said?" Great-grandfather Fang asked worriedly. Fang Zhao. "I remember." Great-grandfather Fang looked at his refined great-grandson and felt even more uneasy. You are just too honest." Fang Zhao. Where did great-grandfather see that from? After spending 2 days with the two elders in Yanbei, Fang Zhao returned to Qian from Yanbei and received a notice to report to Silver Wing. The company had gathered all the cast members of Founding Era for a meeting. This time, besides the cast members, the number of assistants that could follow the Founding Era cast to Planet Y was limited. Those whose ranks were not high enough were not even allowed to bring along assistants. Even an actor of He Lizi's rank could only bring along one assistant. Once they arrived at the filming location on Planet Y, the entire cast and crew would be under unified management. Therefore, Silver Wing, like other entertainment companies, gathered all the artists that were part of the cast and emphasized the matters to take note of. For some people, you can still act like a big shot in Yinzhou, but on a global scale, you might not have the right to do so. Furthermore, there are many seniors in the showbiz circles in Founding Era. Your every move is very childish in their eyes. Don't even think about playing any tricks. They have walked the road and experienced much more than you have. The cast and crew of Founding Era are different from the ones you have been in before. Don't think about using crooked methods. Filming a good show seriously is more important than anything else. Although you have all signed contracts, the cast and crew do not need you. Those that cause trouble and are kicked out of the cast and crew can forget about returning. I don't need to say much. You all should know how intense the competition is. Some people who have long announced their retirement from the entertainment industry are making a comeback for founding era. There are also many people who are waiting to drag you down and enter the industry themselves. Department managers, bosses, and company directors spoke one by one. I don't care how you fight within the company. When you go out, you are all Silver Wing people. You should be united. This time, Silver Wing had sent over 20 actors into the founding era cast. More than half of them would only appear in a few episodes. He Lizzie was the leader of the Silver Wing team, and Fang Zhao's status was only slightly below He Lizzie's. After the meeting, many actors from the company came over to greet Fang Zhao. Big Brother Zhao. Big Brother Zhao, please cover us when the time comes. Big Brother Zhao, this is your first time filming. If you have any questions, don't stand on ceremony with us. We will definitely answer them. Right, we are all from the same company. Don't stand on ceremony. The entertainment industry was a realistic place. The change in these people's attitudes was not strange, especially the few A-grade artists from the company. The last time they had gone to the Y-Film Entertainment base to film, they had seen Fang Zhao's aloof attitude. At that time, Fang Zhao was just an industry outsider. They had never felt that Fang Zhao was a threat to them. Now, their positions had changed. Finally, the day of departure had arrived. From the information released by the government, this time, the cast and crew's departure to Planet Y was a grand affair. The top brass of 2 major art institutes appeared. 5 major live broadcast platforms followed in real time. 12 major media organizations gathered at Huangzhou Spaceport. Teachers and students from 30 art academies came to send them off. Practically all the elites of the entertainment industry were participating. The extravagant lineup of the cast and the overwhelming news online made the public feel that this was no longer just pure entertainment. This was an epic-making event, a milestone. This was something that would go down in the annals of history. This was also why so many actors were willing to join the cast for zero pay. As for those supporting roles that did not have many scenes, most of them were willing to throw in a lot of money. On a certain popular live broadcast platform, the host was broadcasting live at the spaceport. Right now, I am at Huangzhou Spaceport. At this moment, the world's most outstanding actors, famous directors, gold medal screenwriters, authoritative consultants, top-notch production teams, and so on are all ready to set off. Everyone, look at the flying transports behind me. These flying transports will transport people to the spaceport, and then the cast and crew will board the flying transports to Planet Y. This time, all 12 continents' military districts have dispatched a batch of people to Planet Y. According to the information we just received, the military is already waiting at the spaceport. We can't see them now. This cast and crew's bodyguard deployment can be considered unprecedented. After introducing the current situation at Huangzhou Spaceport, the host noticed a comment left by a viewer. Isn't it just a bunch of actors putting on a show? Is there a need for such a big lineup? And even mobilizing the military? What a waste of resources. The host read out this comment but did not give a direct reply. Instead, he asked solemnly, does everyone know why the 12 continents' cemeteries of martyrs are guarded by a batch of top-notch warriors all year round? The online audience was very active. Host, are you talking about the cemetery guards? I know. I heard that there are treasures in all 12 continents' cemeteries of martyrs. Digging up a grave can make you rich overnight. If you don't send people to guard it, those treasures will be stolen. The host's expression became more and more solemn as he read those comments. Money and treasures are all inanimate objects. Honestly speaking, they aren't worth much. Let me solemnly tell everyone that the cemetery guards guard our faith. That is our spiritual pillar. The host's spittle flew everywhere as he talked about matters related to martyrs and cemeteries. Luckily, he had made ample preparations and had memorized quite a bit of historical information. His seniors had also told him that saying this during a live broadcast was definitely a perfect answer. It was absolutely politically correct. As for whether those widely circulated historical events were true or not, He wasn't sure and couldn't deeply feel it. After all, more than 500 years had passed. How bitter and bitter that era had been. Even the direct descendants of many great generals didn't care, so people like him were even less able to feel it. It was really too far away. And Memorial Day was now just a festive New Year's holiday. How many people went to the cemeteries of martyrs to pay their respects to the martyrs? How many tombstones were covered in a thick layer of dust? Now that he was speaking to the camera, he was impassioned. His blood was boiling, and his Chunibu soul was blazing. But when he was done, it was over. Not to mention 500 years, it had only been a few minutes. His blood had already cooled, and so had his brain. It wasn't like he had personally experienced it, nor had he grown up in that era. How deep could his feelings be? When talking about the period of destruction and the people of that era, the public only came into contact with those made-up high-energy historical dramas, monotonous words in history books, and the pitifully few historical images available to the public online. How deep could the public's feelings be? At this thought, the host was alarmed. He suddenly understood why the government had launched the Founding Era project. Thinking up to this point, the host looked solemnly at the camera. Heroes never die. They are just forgotten. There are some things and some people that shouldn't be forgotten. Not to mention 500 years, even 5,000 years later, they still shouldn't be forgotten. Nowadays, Founding Arab isn't just a simple historical drama. It can be called a super project because it wants everyone to remember how this day came about. Remember the faith that people of the new era should have. The host raised his hand and pointed above his head. That spaceship waiting at the spaceport is the Ark carrying faith. Everyone in the cast and crew is going to Planet Y with a mission. After saying this, the host thought back to what he had just said and suddenly felt that his pretentiousness had shot up 100 stories. I'm a fucking genius. Very quickly, this host's live broadcast was edited and posted online. Netizens were full of praises, and even some big shots in the education and entertainment circles had liked it. When other hosts saw this, they suddenly felt a sense of enlightenment. In the future, their additional personas had been confirmed. Just go in this direction. Not only could they attract fans, but they could also obtain the acknowledgement of big shots. How great would that be? Regardless of what they thought, when live hosts broadcast live, their love for the martyrs was deeper than anyone else's. Competing to see who could speak with lofty sentiments. Competing to see who could act better. Inside the spaceport, celebrities big and small seized the time to take selfies before they set off. In the past, they had been keen on posting, passers-by, and the like at the spaceport. This time, in front of a group of seniors, these methods would only make people look down on them, so they were very honest and did not play any tricks. There were solo selfies posted online, and there were group photos with other cast and crew members. Regardless of how they interacted in private, on the surface, everyone was a bundle of harmony. So many seniors in the industry, so nervous. Look at who's standing behind me photo. I've met my childhood idol, so excited. Let's take a photo. Ready to set off? Photo, set off, fight for what we believe in. I feel that I'm hopelessly handsome today. Photo. Only when the boarding announcement sounded did everyone reluctantly stop what they were doing and obediently boarded the plane. Below, the media, fans, and passers-by around the spaceport collectively gazed at the rising aircrafts. Or perhaps they were gazes of envy. When they arrived at the spaceport, the cast and crew boarded the waiting aircrafts. The heavily armed military, the silent and solemn atmosphere made the excited actors suppress their excitement. When they calmed down, it was replaced by a sense of nervousness. However, in this quiet atmosphere, someone suddenly expressed his feelings. If this airship crashes, the entire entertainment circle will regress for many years. Everyone simultaneously looked at Zero, who was standing there feeling emotional. This fellow, it's better to just drag him out and beat him to death. If gazes were like arrows, Zero's heart would have been pierced by 10,000 arrows. Who would want to hear such inauspicious nonsense as crash before taking off? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.